Yubin's head was buzzing, as if he had been hit by an out-of-control truck and then smashed into a pile of cotton. He opened his eyes, and the dazzling sunlight was shining from the dense canopy of trees, and the mottled light and shadow danced on his face. The air was filled with the fragrance of earth and wild flowers, mixed with a faint sweetness, and he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Wait, this is not his rental house. He was obviously working overtime until early in the morning, rubbing his eyes and lying on the keyboard. Why did he wake up surrounded by towering ancient trees? The trunk is as thick as an ancient city wall, and its surface is covered with glowing vines. The leaves rustle as if they are whispering some secret. What the hell is this place? Yubin muttered to himself, propped himself up, and felt that his back was sticky, as if it was covered with dew. He rubbed his temples and tried to recall. The last memory he had was the computer screen flashing, followed by a wave of dizziness. What now? Forest? Another world? Are you kidding? He is not the kind of otaku who loves to read novels. He got up and looked around. The moss under his feet was soft, like stepping on a sponge. Birdsong sounded in the distance, sharp and long, mixed with a faint buzzing sound. Was it a swarm of bees or some magical creature? Just when his mind was in a mess, his vision suddenly flashed, and a translucent blue panel appeared out of thin air, like an AR interface in a science fiction movie, right in the center of his sight. System panel activated. Welcome, Traveler Yubin. Yubin's eyes widened and he stretched out his hand to poke. The panel actually trembled slightly with his fingers. What the hell? Game system? But it feels so real. Host, Yubin. Level 1. Attributes, Strength 12, Normal, Agility 15, Flexibility, Intelligence 18, Smart, Spirit 20, Toughness. Skill, none. Mission, Initial mission, to protect the ecological balance. Explore the elf forest, repair damaged natural elements, and prevent the invasion of dark forces. Reward, Basic Magic Scroll X1, 100 experience points. Tip, the system will help you adapt to a different world. Check out the skill tree to learn magic casting. Yubin's heartbeat accelerated. Is this true? Another world system? Countless novel plots flashed through his mind, but the sense of reality was too strong. There was also a flashing skill tree button on the panel. He clicked it tentatively, and a string of light spots unfolded, as bright as a star map. Basics of magic casting: consume spiritual power, inject scroll energy, and silently recite the spell Breath of Venus to activate. The success rate depends on intelligence. He swallowed. This system is simply a cheating machine. But now was not the time to get excited. The surrounding forest was too eerie. There is a faint green light flickering among the leaves, like veins breathing. He took a deep breath and decided to figure out the situation first. He took a few steps forward and stepped on a piece of withered grass. The edges of the grass blades turned black, as if they had been burned by fire, and there was a hint of burnt smell in the air. Who is there? An old but loud voice came from behind the shadow of the tree. Yubin turned around suddenly, and an old man wearing a green leafy robe slowly walked out. His hair was gray and tied into a bun, his eyes were as deep as ancient wells, and he was holding a curved wooden staff in his hand, with a luminous spar inlaid on the top of the staff. The old man looked at Yubin and frowned slightly, but there was no hostility. Boy, where did you come from? This forest is not something outsiders can break into casually. The old man spoke with a rustic flavor, like an elder in the village talking. Yubin was stunned and stammered, I don't know either. I was working overtime in my world just now, and I'm here in the blink of an eye. Who are you? What is this place? The old man smiled, his wrinkles spreading like bark. My name is Wei Qi, and I am the village leader of this elf village. This is the heart of Elven Forest. The ancient tree spirits protect us, but recently the dark forces are ready to move, and monsters invade frequently. Our barrier, the invisible magic barrier, barely blocks it, but the resources are getting tighter and tighter. You don't look like a local, there is no magic fluctuation in your body, but you have a strange aura. Yubin was confused, but a prompt on the system panel popped up. NPC detected, Village Chief Wei Qi. Friendliness, neutral. It is recommended to interact to obtain information. He breathed a sigh of relief, at least he was not an enemy. Village Chief, my name is Yubin. Really, I came from time travel. I just woke up and saw this system. It's said to protect the ecological balance and so on. Can you tell me more? Monsters? Barriers? It sounds like a fantasy novel. Wei Qi stroked his beard, a hint of interest flashed in his eyes. Traveler? He sounds like a hero from old legends. Come, follow me, the village is just ahead. I'll give you some preliminary resources, a few tree spirit fruits, which can restore your mental strength. The forest ecology is our lifeblood, and the barrier is maintained by natural magic. If it is broken, monsters will come in like a tide and devour everything. They were walking and chatting. Yubin followed Wei Qi, his footsteps making crisp sounds on the fallen leaves. The village is hidden deep in the woods, with several wooden houses woven with vines, the roofs covered with flowers, and the scent of roasted fruits wafting in the air. Several elven-looking residents looked from a distance, with pointed ears and shimmering skin. Boy, what system are you talking about? Wei Qi asked, handing him a red fruit. When he took a bite, the juice overflowed. It was sweet and sour, like a mango in summer. Yubin took a bite of the fruit and felt refreshed. The panel displayed, Spirit +5. It's just an inner panel that can check attributes and tasks. It just taught me basic magic casting. Village Chief, is there a magic scroll here? The system said I can use it to repair things. Wei Qi's eyes lit up and he took out a piece of yellowed parchment from his arms with green runes painted on the edge. This is a basic repair scroll, a rare item. We only have a few left in the village. It can awaken damaged plants, but it is difficult to cast. Do you want to try it? The thorns in front have been corroded by monsters and entangled with black energy. They need to be repaired. Yubin took the scroll and when his fingers touched it, a warm current rushed into his body. The panel pops up, learn skills, basic magic casting. It consumes 10 energy and has a success rate of 85%. He took a deep breath, held the scroll tightly, and silently recited Breath of Venus. There seemed to be wind blowing in the air, and the scroll emitted a soft green light, pouring into the withered thorns. The black air dissipated like smoke, the thorn leaves instantly stretched and bloomed into small pink flowers, bees and butterflies buzzed in, and the air became much fresher. Wow, so easy? Yubin said in surprise, feeling that his intelligence attributes were rising slightly. Wei Qi patted him on the shoulder and smiled from ear to ear. It's not easy. Outsiders rarely succeed the first time. Your system is indeed a gift from God. The forest is thanking you, kid. At this moment, light footsteps came from behind the tree. A girl jumped out. She had long hair like a waterfall, silvery green, pointed ears, she was covered in light armor made of leaves, and her eyes were as bright as emeralds. She held a curved staff and stared at Yubin warily. Village Chief, who is this person? The magic wave just now was the force of nature, but it carried an alien atmosphere. The girl's voice was clear and clear, like the tinkling of a stream, but there was a hint of vigilance. Wei Qi introduced, Lina, this is Yubin, a new outsider. He just repaired the thorn bush and used scroll magic. It looks reliable. Lina walked closer, her nose twitching slightly as if she was sniffing something. I am Lina, a descendant of the Guardian, responsible for the natural magic of the forest. Where do you come from? Why is your power so pure, but it does not belong here? Dark forces have been active recently, and I will not trust strangers easily. Yubin looked directly into her eyes, feeling that her gaze was as sharp as a probe. Lina, I came from another world. The system chose me to protect this place. I have no ill intentions. The restoration of the plants just now is proof. I want to help and fight against those monsters. His tone was firm, and his blood surged. The sense of justice made him couldn't help but puff up his chest. Lina was silent for a moment, closing her eyes to sense, then opening her eyes and raising the corners of her mouth slightly. Well, your heartbeat is steady and there are no traces of darkness. The guardian bloodline tells me that you have the fire of justice. Okay, we will form an alliance for the time being. But if you have other intentions, the forest will swallow you up. Yubin breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. Deal. Let's protect this oasis together. Wei Qi nodded, his eyes full of expectation. Good boys. Yubin, the system has given you an initial mission, right? Now, take on the first exploration mission, patrol the edge of the forest and check if there are any cracks in the barrier. Bring this map and a protective amulet. Lina, accompany him and teach him some tricks of the forest. Lina nodded and turned around to lead the way, her green hair fluttering in the wind. Yubin followed, holding the map tightly, feeling a surge of heat in his heart. The system panel flashes, mission update, explore the edge of the forest. Potential danger, low-level monsters. Deep in the forest, a low roar could be heard faintly, and the shadows of the trees swayed like an omen. They stepped into the unknown, and the aftertaste of magic lingered in the air. Yubin felt that this other world was waiting for him to write a legend. Lina's footsteps were as light as the wind, shuttling through the forest paths entangled with vines, and Yubin followed closely behind. The map was slightly hot in his hand, like a warm current reminding him of the dangers ahead. The air is becoming more and more humid, and the branches and leaves of the trees hang low, like an open green curtain, blocking most of the sunlight, leaving only mottled light spots dancing on the ground. The low roar in the distance was intermittent, like a beast grinding its teeth in its throat, making the back of Yubin's neck shiver. He touched the amulet in his arms. It was cool and engraved with ancient runes. The village chief said it could block a small impact. Don't be distracted, Yubin. This edge area has the thinnest barrier, and monsters love to take advantage of this. Lina turned around, her green eyes flashing with caution. She waved her staff, and a subtle green light swept across the ground, detecting the surroundings like a scanner. I feel something is wrong. There is a rotten smell in the air. The dark forces always send low-level beasts to test the place first, like rats to explore the way. Yubin nodded, still digesting all this in his heart. Time travel? System? Magic? It sounded like a dream, but the residual warmth of the scroll in his palm told him that this was an ironclad reality. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. Lina, what do the monsters here look like? Like the goblins in the movies or something? She smiled, showing a row of white teeth. They are more like twisted dryads, covered with thorns, and their eyes are as red as hot coals. Don't underestimate them, a group of them can tear open the rift in the barrier if they surge up. Not long after they left, a figure emerged from the bushes on the side, tall and agile. It was a young elf with light cyan skin, long hair tied into a ponytail, leather armor wrapped around his body, and a scimitar and several darts at his waist. The ears are pointed and the eyes are as sharp as a hawk. He stopped next to Lina and bowed slightly. Lina, the village chief sent me to meet up. The Edge Patrol cannot be without my Junshi eyes. Lina nodded and introduced, Junshi, this is Yuabin, a new ally. A system traverser who can cast spells with scrolls. Junshi is our patrol expert, and there is no blind spot in the forest that he doesn't know about. Junshi looked at Yubin, his brows raised slightly, as if he was evaluating a new weapon. A foreigner? You look skinny, can you keep up? Monsters will not show mercy. His tone was a bit provocative, but there was a smile on the corner of his mouth, as if he was testing a newcomer. Yubin straightened his back and his blood surged. Would you know if you try it? I have also practiced fitness in the modern world. Although it is not magic, my reaction is not slow. Junshi laughed and patted his shoulder hard. Yes. Let's go. The fog area ahead is the key point. Cracks in the barrier often appear there. The three of them moved forward side by side, Junshi leading the way, his footsteps as silent as a cat. In the middle, Li Na explained the context of the forest in a low voice, while Yubin stood behind and glanced around. The system panel flashes at the edge of the field of vision, like a loyal companion. Warning, signs of small-scale monster invasion have been detected. Distance, 50 meters. It is recommended to prepare for a fight. Yubin's heart tightened and he clenched his fists. The system says something is approaching. Northeast, in the fog. Juanshi immediately stopped and drew out his scimitar, the blade gleaming in the dim light. Good eyesight. Get your scroll ready, boy. Just low-level beasts, but don't let them get close. The mist surged like a living thing, and along with the pungent musty smell, 3 black shadows sprang out. They look like twisted wolves, with black thorns covering their bodies and red eyes. The ground sizzles when their saliva drips, corroding a small pool of black water. The beast growled and pounced on them, its claws scraping the air and making a sharp whistle. Disperse! Juanshi shouted, leapt out of the way, threw out the dart, and pierced the shoulder of a beast. It wailed, its flesh and blood were mangled, but it did not fall down, but instead became more violent. Li Na waved her staff, and the green light turned into vines that wrapped around the second beast's legs, tripping it down. Yuebin, your fireball. Burn their thorns, otherwise they will regenerate quickly. Yubin's mind buzzed, and a skill prompt popped up on the system panel. Basic fireball scroll is activated. Silently recite Fire Spirit Explosion, which consumes 15 energy. He took out the second scroll given by the village chief from his arms. It was a fire attribute, with red talismans painted on the edges, and its tentacles were as warm as charcoal fire. He took a deep breath and recited the incantation silently. His palms warmed up, and the scroll ignited with orange light. A fireball as big as a fist condensed, and a wave of heat hit his face, making him sweat on his forehead. Go! He yelled, throwing out his arms. The fireball roared out, hitting the last attacking beast like a meteorite. With a bang, it exploded, flames licked the thorns, and the beast screamed and retreated, black smoke rising from its body. The other 2 were also affected by the remaining flames. Juanshi took the opportunity to use his sword to cut off the neck of one of them. Black blood spattered and the stench hit his nostrils. The battle ended quickly, the ground was scorched black, and the smell of burning filled the air. Yubin gasped, feeling his mental strength recede like a tide, but a sense of accomplishment surged into his heart. System panel flashes. The battle is won. Defeat low-level beasts x3. Experience value plus 150. Level increased to 2. Unlock a new skill tree, the Fire Magic Branch. Reward, Fireball Strengthening LV1, damage plus 10%. Good job, boy. Juanshi wiped the blade and grinned. In the first battle, I used the scroll to control the field. It was accurate enough. Those beasts are spies of the dark forces, specializing in gnawing at the barrier. Li Na walked closer to check his condition. She tapped his shoulder with the staff, and a hint of coolness flowed in, relieving fatigue. Your mental fluctuations have stabilized. Come, sit down, and I will teach you the basics of natural magic. This does not just rely on scrolls, the forest itself is your teacher. They rested under the tree, and Juanshi went to guard the surroundings. Li Na sat down cross-legged and pointed at a clump of wild flowers. Look, this is the vine of life. Natural magic pays attention to balance, extracting the energy of the forest, but not excessively, otherwise the ecology will collapse, just like a barrier. The dark forces destroy the balance, and we guardians must repair it. She stretched out her hand, and the green light flashed in the palm of her hand, and the flowers trembled slightly and bloomed more vigorously. Try it, close your eyes and feel it. Don't force it with the system, just feel the pulse. Yubin did as he was told, closed his eyes and took a deep breath. At first there was nothing but a heartbeat. But gradually, he felt a warm current rising from the soles of his feet, like the earth whispering. Panel auxiliary pops up, natural magic affinity plus 5%. He opened his eyes and tried to imitate. A green light appeared between his fingers. When he touched the flower, it swayed slightly. "Wow, this feels like shaking hands with the forest." Yubin said excitedly, his eyes shining. Lina smiled, with a hint of recognition in her eyes. "Yes, ecological balance is the key. The invasion of monsters is not random, they are attracted by the corrosive energy of darkness. If the barrier is completely broken, the forest will wither, and our home will be finished. Why do you want to protect it? It's just a system task." Yubin was stunned for a moment, as his mind flashed through the modern smog city and the numbingly busy life. "Not only. I always felt that the world didn't matter before, with work, pressure, and living like a machine. Now, everything here is so vivid, the fresh air, magic, and your bond, make it meaningful to me. I want to protect it and prevent the darkness from destroying this oasis. It's like sharing my knowledge of the world in exchange for your trust." He paused and moved closer. "For example, we have an environmental protection concept there, planting trees, recycling, and preventing pollution. Maybe we can help you strengthen the barrier and use science to mix magic?" Lina's eyes lit up and she leaned forward to listen. "Environmental protection? Sounds interesting. Tell me, how does your science prevent monsters?" Yubin started making gestures. "Imagine a trap, with an electric grid or a flamethrower. Oh, wait, there's no electricity here, but the scroll can simulate it. Or, plant certain plants to form a natural barrier, like a city wall." She laughed, her voice ringing. "You have a quick mind. Maybe you can give it a try. It seems that an alliance is not a bad idea." The two chatted in good spirits, and there was a touch of warmth in the air. Junshi looked at it from a distance, shook his head and smiled. "Stop chatting, there is a crack ahead." Junshi shouted, running back from the fog, his face serious. They arrived, and at an invisible wall, the air was distorted, like traces of broken glass. Black air seeped out from the cracks, and the plants on the ground withered and made a sizzling sound. System prompt, boundary weakness detection. Repair requires natural magic plus scroll energy. This is the climax. Yubin murmured, his heart changing from initial confusion to determination. The monster invasion is just a prelude, a greater threat lies behind, and he cannot retreat. Lina, teach me the trick, plus the remaining energy of the fireball. I will take the lead. Lina nodded, and Junshi guarded the surrounding area. The three of them worked together. Lina injected natural green light, Yubin held the repair scroll tightly, and silently recited the mixed spell Breath of Venus, guarded by the flame spirit. Energy gathers like a river, with green and red light intertwining and pouring into the cracks. The black air shrieked and receded, the cracks slowly healed, the air cleared, the trees stood upright again, and the flowers bloomed. Success. The panel flashes, mission progress, barrier repair plus 20%. Experience plus 100. Yubin clenched his fists and his blood boiled. This is not a game, this is his battlefield. He wants to protect, not only the system, but also this new home. But just as the rift closed, a deeper roar came from the distance, like the earth roaring. Junshi frowned. This is not the end. Dark forces are gathering, and something bigger is coming. Lina pulled Yubin up. Go back to the village and tell the village chief. We have to prepare. When we returned to the village, it was already dusk and the lights of the wooden houses were flickering. Wei Qi waited in the square and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that they were safe. How's it going? Where's the rift? Junshi reported the battle situation, and Yuebin added details. After hearing this, Wei Qi stroked his beard and thought deeply. The weak point of the barrier is in the east, where the dark energy specializes. The monster is just the vanguard, and there are big fish behind it. He took out several bundles of shimmering materials from the wooden house, crystal resin, glowing leaf veins. These are the raw materials for the scroll. Boy, use your system to synthesize a new scroll. Strengthen the barrier, starting tonight. Yubin took the material and felt the weight like responsibility. Deep in my heart, that confusion has turned into determination. He looked at Li Na and Junshi and smiled. We are together. The forest will not fall. The night wind blows, the lights of the village illuminate their faces, and the distant forest whispers, foretelling the coming storm. The night fell like ink over the village, and the lights swayed between the wooden houses, like stars falling into the world. Yubin sat cross-legged on the stone platform beside the square, holding the flickering resin and leaf veins in his hands, and the system panel unfolded the synthesis interface in his field of vision. The air was filled with the mixed smell of pine scent and earth, and the whispers of the distant forest sounded like the whispers of an old man, mixed with the faint sound of wind, which sent shivers down his spine. Wei Qi had just walked away to convene the residents to discuss defense, while Li Na and Junshi were standing by, the fire crackling, their faces red. These materials are combined like playing with building blocks? Junshi came over and poked at a piece of resin, his eyes full of curiosity. I've been patrolling for so many years and I've seen scrolls, but I've never seen anything like your inner panel. Try it quickly and combine it into a powerful one. We have to strengthen the eastern boundary tomorrow. Yubin smiled and clicked the synthesize button on the panel. Green light surged out from between the materials, converging into a new scroll, with intertwined vine runes painted on the edges, and it was as cool as a spring breeze when touched. It's done! This is a vine-binding scroll, an upgraded version that can summon the roots of the forest to entangle enemies. The system said that combined with natural magic, the effect is doubled. He handed it to Junshi and felt a sense of pride in his heart. From being a rookie last night to now being able to make his own props, this change made him feel that he was not a foreigner, but a part of this green sea. Li Na came closer and scanned the scroll with her green eyes. Yes, the runes are pure. The dark forces are most afraid of this kind of binding technique. They move forward by creeping and corroding, and half of their lives will be wasted if they get entangled. She patted his shoulder, with a hint of warmth in her tone. Get some rest. The three of us will team up for an in-depth exploration tomorrow morning. The village chief said that the barrier's weak points extend beyond the east. There are abnormal fluctuations deep in the forest and we need to find out. Yubin nodded, lying on the straw mat and staring at the stars. His mind flashed back to modern hazy nights, when he always worked overtime alone and felt that life was as boring as a gear. What now? Magic, partners, crisis. This time travel is like a second chance given by God. He closed his eyes, and the system panel quietly popped up. Side mission released, investigate abnormal magic fluctuations. Go deep into the middle of the forest and trace the source of dark energy. Reward, mental attribute +5. Intermediate scroll X1, 200 experience. Warning, potential medium-sized monster threat. Coming. Yubin murmured, excited and wary. In his sleep, he dreamed of vines entangling black shadows like giant pythons. When he woke up, it was already dawn. The morning mist is lingering, and the sound of the village waking up is as light as the song of birds. The three of them set off, with Junshi leading the way, Li Na on guard in the middle, and Yubin standing behind with an extra talisman in his hand. The forest trails are winding, and the fallen leaves rustle under your feet. The air is so humid that it feels like water can be squeezed out, mixed with the sweet and sour taste of wild fruits. They walked through a fern jungle, and the sun shone through the leaves, mottled like gold coins. The system shows that the fluctuation is north by east, about 2 kilometers. Yubin whispered, and the red dot on the panel flashed, like a radar navigating. It feels like a heartbeat, intermittent. Junshi frowned and tightened his grip on the scimitar. That place is the old tree area, the holy place where tree spirits sleep. If the dark forces touch it, we will be in big trouble. He turned his head, his tone was half joking and half serious. Boy, are you ready for your new scroll? Last time you controlled the low-level beast well, this time the medium-sized beast is no joke. It looks like a twisted tree demon, with rough skin and thick flesh, and one claw can break a thigh. Li Na added, don't fight hard, use the terrain. The forest is our ally. She waved her staff, and a green light swept across the ground, and the vines trembled slightly, as if in response. After walking for half an hour, they arrived at the old tree area. The towering old trees stand like giants, their trunks are covered with moss, and there is a pungent sour smell in the air. On the ground, the edges of the grass were black, as if they had been splashed with strong acid, and the leaves were curled and withered. Yuben squatted down and touched it. A chill ran up his arm, and the system prompted, detect traces of dark corrosion. Energy source, underground veins, 300 meters away. This is their masterpiece. Yuben stood up with a solemn expression. It's like a virus is spreading, and the pulse of the plants is messed up. We have to follow the source. Juanchi nodded, and the three of them moved forward cautiously. Suddenly, the ground shook and there was a muffled sound like thunder. A huge thing emerged from the soil, a medium-sized tree demon, 2 meters tall, with black thorns covering its body, branches swaying like whips, and eyes as red as lanterns. It roared, the corrosive aura hit its face, the air sizzled, and the surrounding vegetation withered instantly. Coming! Disperse! Juanchi shouted, jumped to dodge, and slashed at the tree demon's branches with his scimitar. The blade embedded in it, but only cut off a few black thorns. The tree demon counterattacked, whipping out with a whip, and the wind howled. Juanchi rolled away and cursed, damn, this guy is so thick-skinned. Boy, get your vines up now. Yuben's heartbeat was beating like a drum, and clips of training flashed through his mind. The system panel expands, Vine Restraint LV1 activated. Silently recite the Embrace of the Earth, which consumes 20 energy. The success rate is 92%. He took a deep breath, held the scroll tightly, and stepped on the ground to feel the warm current, the natural pulse that Lina taught last night. The scroll glowed with green light, and he shouted, the Embrace of the Earth. The ground cracked, and thick vines sprang out like giant pythons, wrapping around the tree demon's legs. The black thorns struggled, making harsh friction sounds, but the vines became tighter and tighter, locking them like iron chains. The tree demon roared angrily and tried to rise up from the ground, but was dragged down and smashed up all over the ground. The air was filled with a mixture of earthy smell and rancid smell. Juanchi took the opportunity to jump up and stab his eyes with the scimitar. Good job! The restraint is stable. The tree demon screamed when the knife hit, black blood spattered, and the branches were thrown around, but the vines suppressed it tightly. Lina touched up the damage from the flank, and the green light turned into an arrow and shot into the wound. Hold on, Yuben, your energy is maintaining, she shouted, with approval in her voice. Yuben was sweating on his forehead, feeling like a flood of energy was leaking out, but blood surged in his heart. This was his growth, from passive spell casting to active field control. He gritted his teeth and injected more natural power. Green light appeared on the vines, and the tree demon's movements gradually slowed down. Juanchi's final blow cut off the core branch. The monster fell to the ground and turned into a puddle of black mud. The air became fresher. The battle is won. Medium tree demon kill. Experience plus 250. Skill upgrade, Vine Restraint LV2, duration plus 20%. The panel flashed, Yuben gasped and clenched his fists. We won, it feels so good. Juanchi wiped his sweat and patted his back. Boy, you have turned into a warrior from the stupid young man you were last night. You use the scroll like an expert, and the forest recognizes you. Lina inspects the traces. The source of corrosion is underground, like the corrupted seeds of dark forces. It must be dug out and burned. She used her staff to detect it, and the three of them worked together to dig up the soil. A black crystal as big as a fist rolled out, with purple light pulsating on its surface. Yuben lit it with a fireball scroll, the crystal exploded, and the aftermath made the ground tremble slightly. The mission is completed, and the panel reward arrives, Spirit plus 5, and the new scroll is obtained. On their way back, the sky turned cloudy and there was a hint of chill in the wind. At the end of the forest path, a figure was hidden in the shadow of the trees. He was tall and thin as bamboo, wearing a gray robe, a hood covering his face, and holding a crystal staff. The man appeared slowly, his voice as low as an ancient bell. Stop. Your magic fluctuations have disturbed the sleeping secret. Junshi drew his sword and was alert. Who are you? There is no trace of you in this forest. Li Na's eyes lit up. Master Saint. The village chief mentioned you, the reclusive magician. The man lifted his hood, revealing an old but sharp face, with eyes as deep as stars. Exactly. You been, right? I can smell the breath of the time traveler from 3 miles away. Come, test your potential. Without waiting for a response, he waved his staff and a phantom energy net covered Yu Bin, like invisible spider silk. Yu Bin instinctively retreated, and the system warning flashed. He silently recited the vine curse, but Xinjie shook his head, too dependent on the scroll. Try pure spiritual injection. Yu Bin closed his eyes, drew out the hot blood in his heart, and shot out his spiritual power like an arrow, tearing open the energy network. Xinjie nodded, approval flashing in his eyes. Yes, he is adaptable. Come, let me teach you the essence of scroll casting, not memorizing spells by rote, but resonating with energy, as natural as breathing. They sat down under the tree, and Xinjie demonstrated. Runes appeared on a blank sheepskin in his palm. The scroll is the carrier, and your will is the key. Imagine energy like a river, guide it to flow. The forest has an ancient secret, Alvin's heart, the core crystal core of the barrier, hidden in the deepest part of the forest. It not only guards, but also connects all life veins. The dark forces are targeting it and have corroded the edges. If the core is broken, the balance collapses, and the entire green sea turns into black soil. Yu Bin was shocked when he heard this, and an inner monologue flashed through him. This is not just an adventure, it is a responsibility. The meaning of time travel may be to go from being unable to change reality to taking control of destiny here. Teacher, I will learn. How to resonate. Xinjie smiled and handed him a small crystal. Hold tightly and sense the pulse. Practice every day and the power of the scroll will double. When returning to the village, Li Na led him to a clear spring. Here, assist with training. She took out a few drops of emerald green essence from her arms and dropped them into the spring water. This is natural essence, extracted from the vine of life, which can purify the spirit. Soak your hands and inhale while practicing. Yu Bin is immersed in it, and the coolness rushes into the meridians, feeling as comfortable as electric current. The panel displays natural essence absorption. Intelligence +3, spirit +2. Total attributes improved. He was practicing resonance while chatting with Li Na. Li Na, how long have you been guarding this place? Aren't you tired? She stirred the water, her green eyes reflecting the waves. Since I was a kid, it's been my blood. But if you have a partner, you're not alone. What about you? Do you regret it after traveling through time? Yu Bin shook his head, feeling warm in his heart. I don't regret it. The previous world was like a cage, busy but empty. This place taught me to grow not only magic, but also bonds. Perhaps, I came here to learn to cherish it. After the training, they rushed back to the square. Wei Qi's face turned livid and he summoned everyone. Bad news. The patrol reported that the core of the barrier was damaged. Black energy seeped in, and the pulsation of the core was weakened by 30%. Monsters are about to attack in large numbers. Junshi clenched his fist. Damn it, we just repaired the east side, and they turned to attack the core. Xinjie appeared with a calm voice. Strengthen the defense from now on. Yu Bin, your system and scrolls are the key. We build multiple layers of barriers and combine the power of the tree spirits. Li Na took Yu Bin's hand, her eyes firm. Let's guard together. The storm is coming. The village is brightly lit and bustling with people. Yu Bin looked at his partner, his blood boiling. The damage to his core was like a wake-up call, and he knew that this was the prelude to a bigger battle. The whispers in the forest intensified, and there was a faint roar in the night wind, and the tension was like a bowstring being fully drawn. The fire in the village square burned brightly, reflecting every tense face like a sign of a storm about to break out. Yubin stood by the wooden fence, holding the newly synthesized protective scroll tightly in his hand. The air was filled with the smell of burnt wood and sweat. The residents are busy reinforcing the wooden houses, and the elves whisper ancient protection spells. Their voices are like the wind blowing through the forest tops, thin but tough. Wei Qi sat cross-legged next to the core of the barrier, with his wooden staff inserted into the ground, and the green light pulsed and spread, maintaining the invisible barrier, but tonight, it was crumbling, like a candle in the wind. "Boy, don't be in a daze." Junshi rushed out from the side, carrying a bundle of sharp vine arrows on his shoulders, grinning a little reluctantly. "The monster army is coming. You are the leader and you have to stand at the front." The village chief said that this wave of invasion is a test, but it is as big as a tide. "Can your system optimize the scroll? Give me a big move to prevent those blackthorn wolves from coming in and biting people." Yubin nodded, and the blood in his heart surged even more fiercely. He went from being a rookie last night to now being pushed to the front line. This change made his spine straighten, but it also gave him a sense of confidence, not blind, but tempered from every spell cast and every small battle. The system panel flashed at the edge of the field of vision, displaying emergency mode, preparation for defense battle. It is recommended to optimize the storm scroll, which consumes 30 energy and increases range attack by 50%. "Don't worry, Junshi. I tried synthesis, and this time I used storm to clear the area. You block the leak with close combat, and I'll be responsible for sweeping. Li Na's barrier will protect the rear." Li Na came from the spring, her green hair was stained with dew, and her staff glowed slightly in her hand. She approached Yubin, her voice clear but nervous. "The pulsation of the barrier is weak, and the dark energy is gnawing like a poisonous snake. The village chief can hold on, but we have to block the main force at the entrance of the village. My natural barrier can summon vine walls and thorn traps to assist you. But Yubin, remember, don't be brave, your spirit is the key." Her green eyes locked on him, with trust and faint worry in them, which made Yubin's heart warm. "I understand. Let's guard the house together." Yubin returned her gaze, turned around and shouted, "Everyone, listen. Junshi is in the forward position, Li Na is in the middle as an assistant, and I'm the main attacker. The others are in the back, preparing medical vine juice. When the monsters come, let them know that the elf forest is not easy to bully." His voice was loud and unexpectedly steady, and the residents nodded, with hope flashing in their eyes. Deep down, he thought, in the past, during meetings at the company, he always kept his head down and remained silent. Now, this leader's position is like a test given by the system, he must be worthy of it. The night wind suddenly rose, mixed with distant roars, like rolling thunder. The shadows of the trees at the edge of the forest swayed wildly, and the black mist surged in like a tide, revealing countless red eyes. The monster army appeared. At the head were dozens of medium-sized tree demons, with black spines like whips on their bodies, followed by groups of black spine wolves, their claws scratching the ground with a harsh friction sound, and the corrosive smell hit their nostrils, making the air sticky and sour. They rushed towards the barrier at the entrance of the village, making a muffled sound when they hit, like a hammer hitting glass. The cracks instantly expanded and black air seeped in. "Coming!" Wei Qi shouted, his wooden staff paused, and the green light opened like a net, barely blocking the first wave of impact. But his face was pale and beads of sweat rolled down his face. "The barrier won't last long. Yubin, come on." Yubin jumped onto the wooden stake, the wind ruffled his hair, and the system panel automatically expanded the synthesis interface. He took out the storm spell scroll from his arms. It was the basis of St. Jie's new teaching, with blue talismans painted on the edges, and a cool breeze blew when he touched it. Optimization mode. He muttered silently, the panel flashed red, injecting intelligence attributes, the scroll trembled slightly, and the runes came to life, like whirlpools dancing in the wind. Optimization successful, Storm Spell LV2, expanded range, Wind Blade penetration plus 30%. Consumes 35 spirits. The Wrath of the Wind Spirit. Yubin shouted, raising his hands high, and the scroll burst into blue light. The air was instantly distorted, and a gust of wind burst out from his palm, turning into countless wind blades spinning like scythes, roaring towards the group of monsters. The sound of the wind was like howling ghosts and wolves, mixed with the tearing sound of soil and flesh. The first row of tree demons were chopped into pieces by the wind blade, the black spines scattered in all directions, and the residual limbs hit the ground with a muffled sound. The blackthorn wolves were scurrying around, dozens of them were caught in the storm, their fur was peeled off, and they were wailing endlessly. In front of the village entrance, there was a mess, the ground was stained red with rotten blood, and the stench was overwhelming. "Well done!" Junshi laughed, rushing out from the flank, his scimitar like lightning, and coordinated with the aftermath of the storm to kill any fish that slipped through the net. A tree demon struggled to rush at him, and he dodged sideways. The blade went straight into his eyes, and hot blood spurted onto his face, which was as hot as fire. "Boy, your storm opened the way for me. When these guys get close, let me harvest them." His movements were as smooth as a dance, and his close combat coordination was perfect. Each cut accurately blocked the gap where the monster tried to bypass the storm, making the cleaning more thorough. Not to be outdone, Lina thrust her staff into the ground, green light gushing out like waves. Natural shield. Vines sprang up from the soil, weaving into a thick barrier to block the monster's flanking attack. The thorns stretched out like living creatures, piercing the blackthorn wolf's abdomen, and screams of bloody flesh echoed. She shouted while casting the spell, "Yubin, don't lose your spirit." The barrier is holding up the back, Wei Qi is concentrating on forming the barrier. Her green eyes flashed, sweat dripped down her hair, but her movements were as steady as a rock, and her assistance was flawless. The battle is in full swing, monsters are coming in endless streams, the cracks in the barrier are expanding, and black energy is penetrating like tentacles. Yubin felt that his energy was leaking out like a tide. After the storm spell was fired 3 times in a row, his vision was blurred. But the system panel pops up, combat experience pours in. Level increased to 4. Skill upgrade, Storm LV3, duration plus 20%. Unlock new skills, Defense Scroll Energy Shield, absorbs 30% of damage and consumes 25 spirit. A warm current rushed into his body, his eyes lit up, and he quickly formed a new scroll, blue and green intertwined, holding it in his hand like a second layer of skin. "Shield up!" He muttered silently, and the energy spread like bubbles, covering the front line of the village entrance. The monster, a giant tree demon, crashed into it, and its claws hit the shield, making a metallic buzzing sound that made his arm numb, but it didn't break. The shield absorbed the impact and rebounded a wind blade, cutting off half of the monster's branches. "This is too strong!" Yubin shouted excitedly, his self-confidence bursting. From passive defense to active leadership, this growth spread like a vine. Junshi took the opportunity to jump up and, taking advantage of the gap in the shield, beheaded him with a single blow. "Ha, your shield is like an iron wall. One more wave." Lina's barrier blended with the shield, green and blue light intertwined, and the monsters retreated wailing as if they had hit a copper wall. Wei Qi panted behind, the green light of the barrier stabilized, and murmured, "Hold on, it will be over at dawn." Finally, the main force of monsters collapsed, and the remaining defeated soldiers fled into the forest, roaring away. The entrance to the village was covered in scorched earth, black smoke curled up, and the air was filled with the smell of burning and blood. Yubin collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily, and the panel displayed, "Defensive Battle Victory. Experience plus 500. Village Barrier Stability plus 15%. Clues were found, the invasion was remotely driven by a dark controller, and fragments of wool remained in the black air." He frowned and picked up a piece of black crystal left by the monster. There was a faint purple light pulsing inside, as if there were eyes peering into it. "This is not random, someone is behind it, like a puppet on a string. The dark forces are not just monsters, but also bosses." The residents cheered and gathered around to clap their shoulders in celebration. Lina helped him stand up, with a tired smile. "You led well, Yubin. The storm technique eliminated half of the monsters." Without you, we wouldn't have made it to dawn. Junshi wiped the knife and laughed loudly. Boy, have you upgraded? Your eyes are as bright as a wolf. I will partner with you next time. Wei Qi came over, stroking his beard and nodding. We have secured the entrance to the village, but the core damage needs to be repaired. Rest, we will discuss a counterattack tomorrow. Late at night, as the lights in the village gradually dimmed, Yubin slipped away alone to the clear spring near the forest and soaked his hands to relieve fatigue. The saint appeared like a ghost, his gray robe fluttering in the moonlight. Boy, the battle is good. But the system is the tool, and the traditional magic is the root. Come, fuse them. He handed over an ancient crystal core, and the energy was like electricity when he touched it. Your panel optimization scroll, I will teach you to infuse it with will. Imagine the system is like a river, and the tradition is like the sea merged into one, casting spells as unimpeded. Yubin closed his eyes to test, injected his mental power into the crystal core, and the panel popped up, fusion mode unlocked, traditional magic affinity plus 10%. The power of the scroll is permanently increased by 15%. Warmth flowed through his body. He opened his eyes and felt unprecedented confidence in his heart. He was no longer an outsider relying on the system, but a guardian integrating the two worlds. From traveling through confusion to becoming the leader he is now, although this journey is dangerous, it allows him to find where he belongs. Thank you, mentor. Tomorrow, we will investigate the source. Yubin stood up, clenching his fists. In the early morning, everyone sat around in the square, and the victory fruits were roasted around the celebratory fire, and the aroma filled the air. Wei Qi announced, the first invasion was blocked, but the black crystal clues showed that the dark forces were hiding in a corrupt lair deep in the forest. Yubin, you lead the team, and the counter-detection plan is launched. Unite with the tree spirits to destroy the source of control. Lina nodded and Junshi geared up. Yubin looked at his companions, his blood rekindled, but there was a hint of vigilance in his eyes. A deeper conspiracy was shrouded like a black mist, waiting for them to uncover. The forest whispers, seeming to foretell that a bigger storm is coming. The morning light falls on the square, and the aroma of roasted fruits mixed with the smell of dew makes the air sweet and fresh. Yubin took a bite of the hot fruit, and the juice dripped down his chin. He wiped his mouth, and listening to Wei Qi's words, the vigilance in his heart was like a vine. The counter-detection plan was launched and he led the team. This responsibility was as heavy as a mountain on his shoulders, but the looks in his partner's eyes made him feel that he was not alone. Junshi gnawed on the fruit and said with a grin, Boy, lead the team, don't hold back. My knife is waiting to kill. Lina chuckled, her green eyes swept over him. He won't. The depths of the forest are dangerous, but we have his system. Wei Qi nodded and took out the rolled map from the wooden house. The parchment was yellowed and the edges were covered with green runes. He spread it out and everyone came closer. The map was marked with winding paths, dangerous areas, and a few flashing dots. This is the map of the ancient tree. I got it from the saint. There are ruins in the depths, hiding rare materials, star crystals and life-fine cores, which can strengthen the core of the barrier. Go, but be careful of magical creatures. They guard old secrets and are not easy to mess with. He handed it to Yubin, his palms warm as if conveying trust. Xingjie walked out from the shadow of the tree, his gray robe fluttering in the wind, his eyes as deep as night. Boy, high-level scrolls don't just flick around, they have to understand resonance. He took out a blank sheepskin from his arms, and the runes were swimming like living creatures. This is a beast-taming scroll, specially designed to deal with magical creatures. It is infused with will, not a spell. Think of it as a bridge, connecting your heart and the soul of the beast. When practicing, don't be impatient, fuse the system panel, and the affinity will jump. Yubin took it, feeling cool to the touch, and the panel popped up, advanced knowledge acquisition. Magic affinity plus 5%. New mission upgrade, deep exploration, collect X3 star crystals and X2 life-fine cores. Strengthen the barrier, reward, high-level scroll X1, 300 experience. Thank you, mentor. Yubin held the map tightly, his blood welling up. from the exhaustion of defensive battles to now taking the initiative, this growth system is upgrading his ambition. He turned to Lina and Junshi and said, "Let's go to the middle floor to warm up first. I'll practice resonance while walking." The three of them nodded, picked up their bags, and stepped out of the village. The forest has awakened, the birds are chirping like bells, the leaves rustle in response to their footsteps, and the air is moist and fragrant with earth. As the path deepens, the sunlight gradually becomes thinner, and the trees stand tall like guards, their branches and leaves intertwined into a green dome. Junshi opened the way in front, cutting off the thorns with a light swing of his scimitar, humming an elf tune. The wind in the depths carries the sighs of the past. "Be careful where you step, the roots will trip you up." Lina walked next to Yubin, her staff tapped the ground lightly, and the green light scanned the surrounding area. She glanced at him and said in a soft voice, "The ruins marked on the map are the old sites of my ancestors. The family has a long history. Since the birth of the forest, we guardians have been guarding the balance. The dark force is not a new enemy. A few generations ago, it destroyed my great-grandfather's village, leaving only fragments of the barrier." Yubin's heart softened as he listened. Her green eyes reflected the shadow of the trees, hiding a faint pain, reminding him of the lonely nights in modern times. "Sounds like a family mission. No wonder you are so strong. Aren't you tired? You always carry it alone?" he said while testing the resonance of the saint, holding the animal taming scroll tightly, closing his eyes to feel the warm current in his heart. The panel was assisted to unfold, and the mental power extended like a thread, touching the pulse of the forest. It was chaotic at first, like an unstoppable wind, but gradually, the energy gathered, and he felt that his intelligence was flowing like a spring. Lina smiled, stopped, picked off a blue flower, and handed it to him. "It's not tiring. I have a partner to share the burden. What about you? Have you adapted after time travel? The system has been a big help, but you have to walk your own path in your heart." She came closer, her hair brushing his arm, and the fragrance was as fresh as wild flowers. Yubin opened his eyes, took the flower, and an inner monologue flashed through. "Her trust is like a bridge connecting two worlds." He took a deep breath. "I got used to it. In the previous world, I was too busy to think about the future. Here, I was taught to cherish you, the forest, and this blood. Perhaps, I came here to learn not to flinch." The two looked at each other, with a hint of warmth in the air, and emotions quietly entangled like vines. Lina's cheeks were slightly red and she whispered, "That's good. Together, we can protect not only the barrier, but also each other." Junshi shouted from the front, "Hey, you two, stop basking in the sun. The middle level has arrived, and the fluctuations are strong." They caught up, and the air became thick and mixed with a metallic buzz. The red dot on the map flashed, and in front were ruins, a collapsed stone arch, covered with vines, and a faint green light pulsing behind the door. Suddenly, the ground shook, and three magical creatures sprang out. They looked like giant tree frogs, their skin flashed with blue scales, their eyes were like gems, and their tongues were whipped out like whips, making a sizzling sound with electric arcs. They guarded the ruins and roared, "Invaders, retreat! Magic tree frog! Be careful of electric shock!" Junshi rushed forward with his sword and dodged a tongue whip. The blade hit the scales and sparks flew everywhere. "Boy, your storm assist, I'm close." Yubin nodded, silently reciting the storm technique. Blue light burst, the wind blade rotated and swept towards the frogs, wringing out a tongue, blood spattered, and a fishy sweet taste hit his nostrils. Lina waved her staff, green vines wrapped around the second end, thorns penetrated, and the frogs croaked loudly. The third head pounced on Junshi, arcing like a net. He rolled to the ground to dodge and grabbed the animal taming scroll. It was a spare one that Yubin had just mastered. "Try this!" Junshi shouted, injecting his will, and the scroll glowed with golden light. The energy connected to the frog's soul like a bridge. The frog's body froze, and its eyes changed from fierce to soft. The system panel flashed in Yubin's field of vision. Beast taming successful. Auxiliary monster, blue-scaled tree frog, skill, grid assist, Defense plus 20%. The frog jumped onto Junqi's shoulder, a small version, and licked his face with its tongue, humming. "Ha, it's done. This little guy is obedient," Junqi said excitedly, and the frog spit out a small electric net, knocking out the last remaining enemy. The three of them gasped, and the door of the ruins opened. Inside was a crystal cave, with the walls embedded with star crystals, twinkling like the night sky. Yubin collected materials. When his hand touched the crystal, energy rushed in, and the panel popped up, material acquisition. Magic affinity breakthrough. Intelligence plus 8, spirit plus 10. The total attributes are greatly improved, and the level is raised to 5. Unlock advanced synthesis, artifact fusion. He felt that his mind was clear, casting spells was like using his arms and fingers, and growth was coming like a tide. Deeper into the cave, the climax comes. A guardian beast appeared, a giant tree spirit beast, 3 meters tall, with arms like branches, green eyes flashing, and a roar that shook the stone wall. Death to the blasphemer. Its branches swept forward, and the wind was as heavy as a knife. Junqi's blue-scaled frog's power grid was launched first, paralyzing the beast's legs. Yubin silently recited the high-level storm and merged with the resonance. The wind blades were like tornadoes, tearing branches and flying sawdust. Lina injected green light, and the vines assisted in the restraint. The beast struggled and roared, and the scent of wood mixed with blood was in the air. "Come together!" Yubin yelled. The improved attributes made him mentally healthy. The newly synthesized scroll, the thunder and wind technique fused with star crystals, blue and purple light bursts, and thunder and lightning wind-wrapped blades, directly hit the core of the beast. With a roar, the beast fell to the ground and dissipated into points of light, leaving behind a fragment of the artifact, a crystal green core, pulsing with pure energy. Panel, Guardian Beast defeated. Obtain Artifact Fragment X1 to strengthen the core of the barrier. Experience plus 400. This fragment is the fragment of Alvin's heart, Lina said in surprise, with tears in her eyes. The inheritance of the ancestors can repair the core. Yubin held the fragment tightly, heat flowed through his body, and his heart surged with accomplishment. From exploring the rookie to defeating the Guardian, this journey proved that he belonged here. On the way back, the sky turned cloudy and there was a chill in the wind. They walked through the woods on the edge of the village, Junqi's frog standing guard in front of them. Suddenly, the frog buzzed loudly and its blue scales stood up. Yubin's heart tightened, and the system warned, dark penetration detection. There is black air remaining on the edge of the village, and spies are lurking there. Dark shadows flashed in the grass ahead, and a small group of corrupted elves sprang out. Their eyes were red, their bodies were entangled with black thorns, and they whispered, "The master is close, shatter the barrier." Damn it, they penetrated. Junqi drew his sword and knocked down one of the frogs under the electric fence. Lina's green light barrier blocked the surprise attack. Yubin's storm cleared the area, and the black shadows howled and retreated. But one escaped and ran into the wooden house near the village, leaving behind a trace of black air. As the crisis escalated, Yubin's face turned livid. The dark forces are not only deep in the depths, but have also reached the doorstep of our home. We must go back quickly and clear out the evil spirits before strengthening the barrier. Lina squeezed his hand and said firmly, "We can stop it. Together." The forest whispers intensified, like a warning. The lights of the village were in sight, but the shadows had quietly spread. Their pace quickened, and their blood was mixed with urgency. The lights of the wooden houses on the edge of the village flickered, like eyes blinking in panic. Yubin and the others rushed into the area contaminated by black air with their footsteps like the wind. The air was filled with a pungent smell of rot, like moldy fruit mixed with rust. Junqi's blue-scaled tree frog buzzed ahead, arcs of electricity flashing, illuminating the shadows in the grass. The corrupted elf that escaped was running towards the back of the house, its ears were pointed and twisted, its black thorns were whipping like whips, and its eyes were as red as hot coals. "Don't let it enter the village," Junqi growled, and with a wave of his machete, the frog's electric grid was covered like a fishing net. the corrupted elf wailed. His movements froze, his tongue stretched out but was retracted due to the electric shock. "You've been followed," silently remembering the restraints of the vines, and green light burst out from the ground, wrapping around its legs and feet. Lena added a green vine arrow, piercing her shoulder. Black blood spattered and a fishy stench hit her nostrils. "Catch it alive. This mole can spit out information," she shouted, tapping her staff lightly to seal its mouth to prevent it from blowing up. They worked together to drag the prisoners back to the square, and the residents gathered around, their faces as pale as paper. Wei Chi walked out with his staff, frowning and looking at the monster. "Good boys, it's time. The black energy has penetrated into the 3 barrier weaknesses, and the main force of monsters is gathering." He turned to the corrupted elf, slapped the wooden staff, and the green light pierced his brain like a needle. "Tell me. Who ordered you?" The corrupted elf struggled, its eyes flashed purple, and its voice was as hoarse as scraping iron. "Master, ancient evil spirit, will swallow the green sea, the barrier will be shattered." Before it could finish its words, black energy gushes out of its mouth and explodes into a puddle of black mud, leaving a trace of residual wolf fragments floating and pulsing in the air. Xinjie appeared from behind the crowd, his gray robe raised, his staff absorbing the fragments, his face solemn. "This is the mark of the evil spirit. An ancient thing that has been lying in wait since before the birth of the forest, corroding the balance. It controls monsters like puppets. It will attack tonight and break the core." Yubin's heart sank, he held the map tightly, his palms became sweaty. Ancient evil spirit? It sounded like the ultimate boss, but there was a flash of fear in his heart. If he failed, the village would turn into black soil. Lina and the others. He shook his head and shook it off, and his blood surged. "Teacher, how to deal with it? My system can optimize the scroll and give me a direction." Xinjie stared at him, his eyes as sharp as probes. "Boy, fear is the nourishment of evil spirits. When facing it, you don't have to fight head-on, but have inner perseverance. Imagine that your spirit is like a rock, and the rotten spirit of evil spirits will break when it touches it. Come, hold my staff and sense it." Yubin did as he was told, energy rushed into his body, and the panel popped up, "Test of will, face fear. Spirit +3. Unlock inner resonance and increase spellcasting resistance by 20%. A warm current washed away the panic, and he straightened his back, feeling that he had changed from a boy to a warrior, no longer a confused newcomer through time, but a guardian of this forest. The night wind suddenly rose, and there was a roar that shook the earth and the mountains from the edge of the forest, and black mist came like a tide. The raid has begun. The monster army hit the barrier, many cracks exploded, the green light shattered like glass, black air seeped into the village, and the vegetation withered instantly, making a sizzling and corroding sound. Hundreds of blackthorn wolves led the way, followed by a mixture of giant tree demons and corrupted elves. Their claws scraped the ground like thunder, their eyes were red, and their roars shook the wooden house. "Spread the defense. Juanshi, you lead the patrol to block the east side, I will assist you in the middle." Lina shouted, her green eyes flashing firmly. She waved her staff and summoned vine walls like battlements to block the first wave of wolves. Juanshi nodded, showing rare leadership, and his voice was as loud as a trumpet. "Brothers, follow me. Suppress them with arrows, don't let them get close." He jumped on the wooden pile, and the blue-scaled frog electric net fired continuously, paralyzing a group of wolves. The patrolling elves followed, and darts and arrows fell like rain. The monsters fell to the ground wailing, and the ground was stained red with black blood. He commanded while fighting, "Take up the position on the left wing. Boys, remember, the barrier is your backing, hold it until dawn." His ponytail was flying in the wind, and his movements were as decisive as a wolf king, boosting the team's morale. Wei Chi sits cross-legged at the core, with a wooden stick inserted into the ground, and the green light pulses like a heartbeat. But the main force of monsters collided and the barrier shook. He turned pale and gritted his teeth to inject his own strength. "I'll hold on. I'll sacrifice some lifespan to keep it." The green light surged, blocking a wave of tree demons, but his beard and hair instantly turned white, and he was sweating like rain, as if the old tree had exhausted its nutrients. Yubin rushed to the front line, and the system panel flashed crazily, mainline progress, protecting the ecology by 50%. The barrier is damaged by 70%, emergency combat mode. It is recommended to strengthen the thunderstorm scroll and integrate natural magic. He took out the star crystal and artifact fragments from his luggage, and the synthesis interface unfolded, intertwining blue and purple lights. Lina, your natural power. Integrate my system and give the monster a big gift. Lina heard the words and jumped to his side. The staff touched his scroll, and the green light poured into it like a river flowing into the sea. Okay. The natural pulse resonates with your energy. Panel response, fusion successful. Lina's natural magic affinity unlocks team skill sharing. Lightning storm level 3, range plus 50%, duration plus 30%. Spirit sharing, consumption halved. The air twisted, thunder clouds burst out from the scroll, and the wind blades mixed with electric arcs were like tornadoes, whizzing towards the monster main force. The roar was deafening, the lightning flashed like daylight, the storm crushed the branches of the tree demon, the electric grid paralyzed the wolves, dozens of monsters turned to ashes, and black smoke curled up. The corrupted elves tried to fight back, and the black energy came out like tentacles, but the fusion magic intertwined the green and blue light, and the corrupted energy evaporated at the touch, screaming like glass breaking. Too fierce. Junshi shouted from the flank, taking advantage of the storm to clear the way, leading his team to charge and kill the remaining enemies with the flash of his sword. Lina, your vine wall combined with his storm is invincible. The east side is stable. Lina gasped, her green hair sticking to her forehead, but she smiled brightly. Yuebin, your system is like a bridge, connecting us all. Sharing the spirit, I feel your blood flowing. Yuebin nodded, and the warmth of the bond surged in his heart. From working alone to a team, this growth made him fearless of storms. He fired 2 waves in a row. His spirit was like a tide, but the load was shared to reduce the load. The storm continued like a living thing. The main force of the monsters collapsed and retreated like an ebbing tide. The roar of evil spirits could be faintly heard in the black mist, like an ancient whisper. There was a break in the middle of the battle, and they captured a lone blackthorn wolf. Junshi tied it tightly with vines, and Shinjia's staff was inserted into his head. Tell me, where is the evil spirit's lair? The wolf's eyes flashed purple and his voice was intermittent. Deep, the ruins of the abyss, under the core, the devouring heart, is about to awaken. The information was like a bomb, and Shinjia frowned. The turning point is here. The evil spirit not only controls the core, it wants to swallow the core and turn the forest into a dead zone. The intelligence confirmed that the lair is in the deepest part of the forest and is heavily guarded. Our counterattack must go straight to Huanglong. After hearing this, Yubin was as frightened as a shadow, but Shinjia patted him on the shoulder. Boy, information is a weapon. Face your heart. Imagine that evil spirits are like phantoms, and your tenacity is light. The panel popped up, intelligence acquisition. Mainline progress is 55%. Unlock team skills, will link, all members resist terror plus 15%. He took a deep breath, fear turned into fuel, and his blood boiled. Thank you, mentor. I'm not afraid anymore. Let's fight back and save the core. The team regrouped and defeated the last remaining enemies. The lights in the village were rekindled, but the green light in the barrier dimmed. Wei Qi stood up coughing, his gray beard trembling. I survived, but the core pulse is weak and the evil spirit is close. Lina supported him, tears flashing in her eyes. Village chief, rest. Let's go to the abyss. Junshi wiped the knife, his leadership ability not diminished. Yes. Boy, you lead the way, I will be the rear. Lina will escort in the middle. With the guidance of Master Shinjia, this counterattack will defeat the evil spirit. Yubin nodded and looked at his partner, feeling like a rock in his heart. The system displays, Eve of Climax, preparations for counterattack against the lair. Potential threats, there are X number of evil spirit clones. The whispers in the forest intensified, and the black mist rolled in the distance, like a giant beast panting. They were ready to go, stepping into the depths, tense as a bowstring, indicating that a fateful decisive battle was about to break out. The grass on the edge of the village still had the stench of black blood. When Yubin and the other three dragged their tired bodies back to the square, the sky was already turning white. In the wooden houses with flickering lights, the residents' whispers were like wind blowing through the forest tops, mixed with faint gasps and the sound of weapons clashing. Junshi shook off the dirt on the knife and patted the blue frog on the head. The little guy hummed like a coquettish after victory. Boy, this time the evil spirit has been cleared, but the whispers of evil spirits are still echoing in my mind. To fight back against the lair, we need to practice our skills first. The people in the village cannot rely on the three of us to support them. Yubin nodded, the blood in his chest smoldering like embers. He looked at the sporadic elf patrols in the square, with a tired but determined face, and the system panel in his mind quietly unfolded. Post-battle analysis: weaknesses of the village's defense. Residents have low magic affinity and rely too much on melee combat. Recommended training camp mode to unlock team strengthening. Yes, Junshi. You are right. We can't wait for the army of evil spirits to knock on the door, we have to make everyone strong. Village Chief, Saint Master, call everyone together, start a training camp from today. Use my system to analyze weaknesses and teach basic scroll casting. Junshi, you are in charge of actual combat drills. Lina, we will develop hybrid magic. Wei Qi stood up from behind the core stone platform, his gray beard and hair trembling slightly in the morning breeze. He smiled, and the joy of an elder flashed in his eyes. Good boy, your heroic spirit has come up. Go ahead, I'll prepare a history scroll and tell you about the past events of ecological balance. The lifeblood of the forest cannot be protected by just slashing with a sword. Xingjie nodded and raised his gray robe. I will lead the team to explore the edge of the lair and find out the hidden dangers. You guys practice your skills. In the abyss, the black energy is like a living thing. The pulse at the core of the barrier has become chaotic. Lina clenched her staff, locked her green eyes on Yubin, and raised her lips slightly. Mixed magic? It sounds interesting. My natural power, combined with your system, might be able to come up with new tricks. Her hand touched his arm lightly, and the warmth was like a spring breeze, which made Yubin feel warm. The training camp was open on the spot. Straw mats were spread out in the square, residents formed a circle, and the air was filled with the aroma of roasted fruits and the moist smell of earth. Yubin stood in the center, and the system panel appeared like a projection. He adjusted it to the sharing mode so that everyone could see the Blu-ray interface clearly, like a tactical board in a science fiction movie. Listen, everyone. Monster infiltration is not luck, we have to analyze the weaknesses. He clicked on the panel, and red dots marked the village map, the melee blind spot on the east side, and the magic consumption in the middle was too fast. Look, here's the pain point. Junshi's patrol is strong at close range, but weak in long-range firepower. The shield scrolls of the village ants have low affinity and lose their energy when cast. A young elf mother raised her hand and said in a nervous voice, Yubin, we are commoners, how can we learn scrolls? We don't have the magic power in our hands. Yubin smiled and handed her a basic green scroll, an inventory in the village treasury. The runes on the edges were as simple as children's graffiti. It's not difficult, start from the basics. The system taught me, hold on tightly, close your eyes and feel the warm current in your heart, and silently recite Breath of Venus like breathing. Don't worry, try again if you fail. He demonstrated. The green light of the scroll flashed, and a small shield floated up, covering a wooden stake, which could not be blown by the wind. The residents followed suit and tried. At first, the light flashed randomly, and some people were so frightened that they lost their scrolls. But gradually, the green light became stable, and there was a buzz in the air, like a swarm of bees waking up. Junshi laughed, jumped out from the side, and swung his scimitar. Enough theory, let's practice. Divide into groups and simulate a monster invasion. I will be the Blackthorn Wolf, you use your newly learned shield to block, and I will charge. Whoever breaks the defense will get more practice. He put on the fake spine props, roared and rushed towards the first group, his steps as fast as a wolf. The young elves cast spells in a panic, the shields were twisted, and some people were knocked down. There were laughter and curses. "Junshi, be gentle." "Oops, my shield is broken." But Junshi was merciless, shouting while beating, "The monster will not be polite. Concentrate, connect the shields, like a net." After one round, the residents were panting, but their eyes were bright. The sweat mixed with the smell of earth made the square lively like a festival. Lina took Yubin and slipped to the clear spring beside the square. The two sat down cross-legged, the water reflecting the blue sky and sparkling. She took out a few life-vine cores from her arms, which were as green as jade, and handed them to him. "Come, develop mixed magic. Your system optimization scroll, I will add natural pulse. Try storm plus vines, wind blade sweep, vines end, no waste of energy." Yubin nodded, the panel opened the synthesis interface, and the star crystal fragments flashed. He held her hand, and his spiritual power connected to her green light like a thread. There was a buzz in the air, and the two energies merged, like a river meeting the sea. "I feel, your natural force is gentle, like a hug, my system is precise, like an arrow." The scroll takes shape, with green and blue intertwined edges, and the cool breeze is mixed with the fragrance of flowers when it is touched. Lina's cheeks were slightly red, her green eyes were close at hand, and her voice was soft. "It's not just magic. With you, I feel the forest pulsating. Our bond, like this mixture, is strong but harmonious." Yubin's heartbeat accelerated, and an inner monologue flashed through. Her trust made the loneliness of traveling disappear. He gently held her hand. "Lina, from being wary when we first met to being side by side now, this change makes me feel that this world is home with you." She smiled, and moved closer, with the fragrance of flowers on her lips. "Fool, you protect not only the forest, but also each other. Come and test the new scroll." They stood up and silently recited the Wrath of the Wind Vine. Green and blue light burst out, and vines sprouted from the spinning wind blades, like a whip hitting a stake, causing debris to fly. Success. Panel response, hybrid magic unlocked. Team affinity plus 10%. Romantic bond deepens, Lina's favorability plus 15%. At noon, Xinjie came back with his team. His gray robes were stained with black mud and his face was ashen. He summoned everyone, waved his staff, and projected a phantom on the edge of the lair. The ruins of the abyss opened like a giant mouth, and the black energy wriggled like tentacles. The investigation is over. On the edge of the evil spirit's lair, there is a huge hidden danger in the core of the barrier. 20% of the veins have been broken, and the black energy has penetrated into Alvin's heart, like a poisonous root gnawing at it. The monster is guarding in a clone, and the space is distorted, making it impossible to enter through ordinary roads. After hearing this, Yubin clenched his fists, and the system panel automatically upgraded. Integration of exploration intelligence. Skill tree upgrade, unlock the space teleportation scroll. It consumes 40 energy, has a range of 50 meters, and the success rate depends on intelligence. He tried to synthesize it, and a silver-edged scroll appeared, with runes like whirlpools, and the space in his hand was slightly distorted. Teacher, this teleportation scroll can bypass distortion and go straight into the lair. But it must be practiced correctly, otherwise it will be distorted and fall into the black air. Xinjie nodded, with approval in his eyes. Boy, you are growing up quickly. Your heart has changed, from relying on the system to integrating everything. This is the spirit of a hero. Wei Qi walked over with a cane and took out an ancient historical scroll from his arms. The sheepskin was as yellow as old tree bark, and the edges were full of ecological totems. Come, listen to old stories. The key to ecological balance lies in the unity of three veins: natural veins, magic enchantment, and life cycle. The evil spirit was born in the chaos of the forest when it first opened, and it specializes in devouring balance. A few generations ago, our ancestors sealed it with a scroll of unity, but now, the core is broken and the three veins are disconnected, just like the body loses blood. He unfolded the scroll, and the green light projected an ancient battle. Elves and tree spirits joined forces, vines like rivers, magic like shields, circulation like wheels, to repel the black shadow. The residents listened with rapt attention, and someone whispered, "It turns out that our home has so many stories." Responsibility surged in Yubin's heart, like a torch igniting. He is no longer an outsider, he must uphold this inheritance. The training intensified in the afternoon. Junshi led the team to simulate infiltration warfare. Residents used newly learned shields to connect to the internet. Amidst the howling wind, there were constant laughter, curses and collisions. Suddenly, a system warning flashed, crisis detection, a small group of enemy troops infiltrated. On the forest edge on the west side, there are 5 corrupted tree spirits plus 2 blackthorn wolves. The air changed, a pungent rotten stench rushed in, a black shadow emerged from the west of the village, tree spirit branches whipped towards the wooden house, and wolves roared and attacked the patrol. Enemy attack! Everyone on position! Yubin roared, his heroism bursting out. He jumped onto the stone platform, the silver light of the space teleportation scroll flashed, and he teleported to the west front line. He landed as steady as a rock in the wind. "Junshi, the actual battle is here. Lead the team to block the wolves, I will clear the tree spirit." Junshi laughed, flashed the scimitar, and the blue frog net covered the wolves. "Boy, teleport commander. Everyone, follow up, connect the shields." The residents used the new scroll, the green shield blocked the wolf claws like a wall, the collision buzzed, and the wolves howled and retreated. Li now rushed to Yubin, mixed the scroll and recited silently, "The wrath of the wind vine." Green and blue light intertwined, the wind blade twisted the tree spirit branches, the vines entangled and pulled it down, the monster struggled and was pierced by the saint's will beam to the brain core, and the black energy evaporated. Yubin added a small-scale version of space teleportation and threw a tree spirit to the edge of the abyss outside the village. A muffled sound of falling was heard in the distance. Diffused. But this small group is spies, the army is not far away. He gasped, turned around and shouted to everyone, "Look, everyone's training saved the village. The 3 meridians are integrated into one. From now on, practice nature, magic, and circulation. We will counterattack the nest and defeat the evil spirits." The crisis was resolved, and the square burst into cheers. Yubin looked at his companions. Li Na's smile, Junshi's pat on the shoulder, Wei Qi's nod, and Xingjia's eyes made his inner transformation complete, from a confused traveler to a protective hero. Although this road is dangerous, it is full of light. As night fell, they gathered around the fire to discuss a counterattack plan. The map was spread out, and black mist rolled in the distance, like a giant beast calling. The fire of the training camp has ignited the whole village. The storm is coming, but they are ready. The embers of the fire flickered gently in the night wind, reflecting the tensed faces of everyone, like a precursor to a thunder that was about to erupt. Yubin sat cross-legged on the straw mat, holding the newly synthesized space teleportation scroll in his hand. The silver-edged runes were slightly twisted in the firelight, and the air was filled with the sweet aroma of roasted fruits and the moist smell of earth. The map was spread out on his lap, and the edge of the lair marked by black fog was like the mouth of a giant beast. Junshi's blue-scaled tree frog lay on his shoulder, humming low, as if urging action. Li Na came closer and scanned the map with her green eyes, her hair brushing his arm with the freshness of wild flowers. "The outpost is the key. That's where the monsters gather. If you clear it out, you can cut off the claws of the evil spirits," she said, her voice firm but soft, which made Yubin feel warm in her heart. Wei Qi stroked his gray beard and hair, tapping the wooden stick on the ground, and the green light pulsed like a heartbeat. "Yes, the first counterattack will start from the outpost. I will stay in the village and strengthen the barrier remotely to support your retreat. Mentor Xingjia, are you with the team?" Xingjia stood up from across the fire, his gray robes fluttering like shadows, and his eyes as deep as night. "Of course. I bring the secret of the ultimate scroll, but boy, this battle is not just a test of magic, it is your control of destiny." He stared at Yubin, his tone was as low as an ancient bell, which made Yu Bin's spine shiver, but also made his blood surge. Junshi jumped up, his scimitar gleaming in the firelight. "Stop talking nonsense. Let's set out before dawn. I'll clear the way. You can follow. Don't extinguish the fire in the training camp. The villagers are watching." The residents nodded, with hope shining in their eyes. Someone whispered, "Guardians, come on." Yu Bin stood up, clenched his fists, and had an inner monologue. "In the past, I always relied on the system as a crutch, but now I have to hold the rudder by myself. This passion is not a game, it is destiny." He nodded. "Let's go, the counterattack begins." The path before dawn is as dark as ink, and the shadows of the trees are swaying like ghosts. The fallen leaves under your feet make a fine rustling sound, mixed with distant roars, making the air sticky and tense. The 5-person team moved forward. Junshi was in front, with the blue-scaled frog flashing arcs to explore the way. Between Yu Bin and Li Na, the scroll was slightly hot in his arms. Behind the St. Jia Hall, the staff whispered the invisibility spell, covering the footprints. Wei Qi stayed at the entrance of the village, with his wooden staff inserted into the ground, and the green light stretched like a thread, connecting their magic fluctuations remotely. "I can feel it. The outpost is thick with black air, like a poisonous mist. Be careful, there are many monster sentries." His voice came through the barrier, old but steady. After walking for half an hour, the middle level of the forest deepened, and the air became muggy, mixed with the smell of blood like rust. The outpost loomed in sight, a corrupted forest land, surrounded by wooden piles entangled with black thorns. Dozens of blackthorn wolves and tree demons patrolled, their red eyes shining like lanterns. Black mist condensed like a tent in the center, and a leader-like tree demon was 3 meters tall, with branches and arms like giant hammers, and his roar shook the ground. "Sneak in through the crack on the east side," Xinjia whispered, and with a wave of his staff, the space was slightly distorted, opening an invisible passage. Yu Bin took a deep breath, held the teleportation scroll tightly, and the system panel expanded in his field of vision. Space teleportation LV-1 activated. Target, center of the outpost, consumes 25 stamina. The success rate is 95%. I make a surprise attack, you follow up. He recited a spell silently, and with a flash of silver light, his figure disappeared like a bubble, and when he reappeared, he was already in the heart of the camp. The monsters were stunned, and the blackthorn wolf roared at him. He laughed. "It's too late." The red light on the panel burst out, and he pulled out the Fire Rain scroll, a destructive version of the fused star crystal, with the red talisman on the edge beating like flames. Fire spirits descend from the sky. The scroll ignited with orange light, and the heat wave of the air hit his face. He raised his hands high, reciting silently and resonating, and his spiritual power poured in like a river. The sky darkened instantly, fire rain poured down like meteorites, the roar was deafening, each fireball hit the ground and exploded, the flames lit the black thorns, the branches of the tree demon burned into ashes, and black smoke curled up. The wolves howled and scattered, their fur was blackened, and the ground was scorched. The heat wave made Yu Bin sweat on his forehead, but his blood boiled. "This is under my control." Most of the monsters were cleared, and the remaining ones were running around. The leader, the tree demon, roared, giant branches whipped like whips, and the wind roared. Junshi jumped in from the side, and the aftermath of the teleportation made him land firmly. He slashed out with his scimitar like lightning. "Boy, open the way beautifully. This leader belongs to me." He dodged the branch whip, and the blue-scale frog net covered the tree demon's legs and feet, paralyzing him for a moment, and the blade pierced his eyes. Blood splattered and the stench hit his nostrils. The tree demon struggled to fight back and grabbed Junshi's shoulder with one claw, tearing open the leather armor and blood seeping out. "Damn, the skin is so thick." Junshi gritted his teeth and used the strength to turn over. The sword flashed like an arc, cutting off the core branches. The leader suddenly fell to the ground, black air filled the air, and the camp collapsed. Li Na rushed in from the other side, her staff plunged into the ground, and green light surged out like waves. "Forest spirit, listen to my call. The air trembled, and dozens of elven phantoms emerged from the shadows of the trees, translucent tree spirits, with vines like arms and leaves like shields. They hummed like the wind, pounced on the remaining enemies, whipped the wolves with vine whips, and blocked the black air with their leaf shields. The monsters were wailing endlessly, and a tree demon was besieged by 3 spirits. Its branches broke and turned into black mud. The support is in place. Yubin, stay alert. Lina shouted, her green eyes flashing, sweat sliding down her hair. Her summons were as flexible as living creatures, filling the gaps in the team. In the distance, Weiqi's green light stretches like a bridge, pouring into the corrupted soil at the edge of the outpost. Strengthen the barrier. His voice echoed, and the green light opened like a net, sealing the black energy from leaking out. The monster tried to escape but was tripped by the vine net, and the sound of corrosion rang out. In the direction of the village, the green light pulsed steadily, as if the backing would never fall. Xingjie hummed outside the battle circle, his gray robe fluttering, and his staff pointed at Yubin. Boy, the secret of the ultimate scroll is not destruction, but balance. Imagine your system as like a mirror, reflecting the rotten energy of evil spirits. Hold tight. He threw a crystal core, and energy rushed in when he touched it. Lights and shadows flashed in Yubin's mind. The scroll not only attacks, but can also reverse the black energy into green light. The panel pops up, Ultimate Secret Acquisition, Balance Scroll LV1, Reverse Corrosion, Consume 50 energy, Success rate depends on will. Understood. Yubin was shocked. This is not relying on tools, but controlling the source. The battle was fierce, and the remnants of the enemy counterattacked. A giant tree demon clone sprang out, its branches and arms swept towards Yubin, and black thorns shot out like a rain of arrows. He dodged, and the rain of fire and embers protected his body, but a spear stabbed his shoulder, causing severe pain like fire, blood oozing out, and his mental power receding like a tide. System warning flashes, serious injury detection. Spirit -20, limited movement. Emergency upgrade activated, fusion of balance scroll, experience influx, level raised to 6. Unlock self-healing mode, recovery speed plus 50%. Warmth flowed throughout the body, the wounds healed with green light, and the pain turned into strength. He stood up with red eyes. This injury is nothing. The climax broke out. Junshi cut off the clone with a last-ditch attack. Lina's tree spirits gathered to attack, and Xingjie's will beam sealed his throat. The camp is purified, the black fog dissipates, and green shoots regenerate on the ground. Yubin gasped, clenched his fists, and his heart was reborn. In the past, I always waited for the system to be upgraded. Now, I control it and control my destiny. This passion made him feel invincible. Here comes the turning point. Among the leader's corpse, an amethyst rolled out, and Saint Jie's staff poked around. Phantom projection, a fallen elf figure, tall and thin, twisted, green eyes turned red, clad in black robes, whispering, "The outpost is just a gift, the heart of the forest, waiting for me to devour." The information was like a lightning strike. The fallen elf, who was once the guardian, betrayed the balance and controlled the evil spirits. Xingjie's face was ashen, the true form of Black Hand. It is hidden in the heart of the forest, under the core crystal core. The intelligence points to the end of the battle, and our counterattack has just begun. Lina held Yubin's hand tightly, her green eyes firm. Is the wound healed? Let's go home and prepare for the decisive battle. Junshi wiped the blood and laughed. Boy, you are such a handsome self-healing. Fallen elf? Cut it. The team retreated. Weiqi's green light led the way, and the forest whispered like a hymn. Yubin looked at his partner, his blood rising like a surge. Destiny is in his hands. This green sea will never fall. Black mist rolled in the distance, foreshadowing a deeper storm, but they were fearless. The morning mist wrapped around the shadows of the trees on the edge of the village like a veil. When the team returned, their footsteps stepped on the wet fallen leaves, making a fine rustling sound, mixed with the low hum of the rolling black mist in the distance. Although Yubin's shoulder wound had healed on its own, there was a dull pain, like a thorn stuck in the muscle, making him grit his teeth every step he took. Junshi supported him, and the blue-scaled tree frog lay on his shoulder and buzzed, seeming to complain that this expedition was too exciting. Lina walked beside him, her green eyes swept across his face, and whispered, "Hold on, the life spring in the village can completely cleanse the poison. Your self-healing is stronger, but the aftertaste of the black energy is still there." Behind the saint's hall, his gray robe was stained with black mud, and his staff tapped the ground, and the green light swept away the trailing rotten air like silk threads. In the square, the embers of the fire were still smoking, and residents came forward to greet them, with worries and expectations mixed on their faces. Wei Qi stepped forward with his staff, his old eyes narrowed and he looked at them. "You're back? Where's the outpost?" Junshi grinned and shook off the black residue on the knife. "It's cleared." This scroll of fire rain made the monster cry for father and mother. Intelligence was also dug up that the fallen elves were behind the scenes and were hiding in the heart of the forest. Everyone was relieved, but became nervous again. Yubin was helped to the spring of life. The spring water was as clear as a mirror, and the edges were covered with glowing vines. He took off his shirt and dipped into the spring. The coolness rushed into the wound like electricity. The pain instantly turned into warmth. The panel popped up, healing from the spring of life. Injury recovery is 100%, spirit plus 10. He took a deep breath, feeling light all over his body, and his blood surged up again. "Thanks, everyone. This injury is nothing, the evil spirit's claws have just emerged, we have to bite back." At this moment, the system panel flashed in the center of the field of vision, and the blue light was dazzling like an alarm. Difficult mission released. Unite elf allies. Lobby the secluded elves, persuade the neutral tribes, and gather strength to fight against the evil spirits. Reward, ally affinity plus 20%, permission to synthesize the ultimate artifact, 500 experience. Failure penalty, village barrier collapse risk plus 50%. Tip, the weakness of evil spirits is hidden in ancient legends and requires the help of saints. Yubin's heart tightened. The difficulty of this task reached the ceiling. He stood up, water drops sliding down his skin, and turned to Lina. "The system has ordered us to pull allies. The reclusive elves are deep in the western forest. They have powerful tree spirit summoning skills, but they are as withdrawn as old hermits. Are you and I going to lobby?" Lina nodded, and her green eyes flashed with determination. "Okay, I am the queen of the guardians. They will give you face." "Junshi, what about you?" "The neutral tribe is in the north, and those guys are waiting for the wind." Junshi laughed and patted the scimitar. "Show me your courage and show them how to kill a few monsters. I promise to convince them." "Instructor Xingjia, village chief, are you guarding the house?" Xingjia nodded and took out an ancient jade pendant from his arms. The surface was engraved with runes, like an ancient seal. "Boy, I know the weakness of the evil spirit. It was born in chaos and is afraid of the union of light and shadow. Light purifies the rotten air, and shadow blocks the will. The fallen elves were once one of us, and they stole the artifact fragments during their betrayal. The crystal core in your hand is the key." He handed over a yellowed sheepskin booklet with pages as fragile as leaves. "Here is the synthesis guide. By fusing your system panels and injecting your will, you can create the ultimate scroll, the blade of light and shadow, which can directly hit the core of evil spirits. But it needs the energy resonance of allies, otherwise it will backfire." Wei Qi stroked his beard, his eyes full of trust. "I consolidate the defense line and strengthen the unity of the three veins." The villagers learned the skills from the training camp, and now send patrols to take shifts. "Go ahead. Trust each other, which is the greatest weapon." The team split up, and Yubin and Lina set off toward Shilin. The path was winding like a dragon's spine, and the sun shone through the gaps in the leaves, mottled like gold coins. The scent of wildflowers in the air is rich, mixed with the faint smell of pine resin, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. Lina chatted as she walked, her green hair dancing in the wind. "The leader of the reclusive clan is called Alan. The old man is stubborn but kind-hearted. Remember, don't mention that the system is straightforward and says that you are the guardian of the forest." Yubin smiled and held the jade pendant tightly. I understand. Just like when talking about business in modern times, you first engage in feelings. They walked through a fern forest and arrived at the reclusive village. The wooden house was hidden among the giant trees, with vines like door curtains, and the air was buzzing with the whispers of tree spirits. Alan walked out, tall and thin as a bamboo, with silver hair shawl and eyes as deep as ancient wells. Lina, the descendants are here? Who are the outsiders? Lina bowed. Clan leader, this is Yubin, a time traveler, a magic user given by the system. He protects the ecology and repels outpost monsters. Evil spirits threaten the entire forest, and we need to unite. Yubin stepped forward, speaking sincerely. Chief, I'm new here, but I witnessed the black energy swallowing the green sea. Your tree spirit summoning is the key. We don't ask for dominance, just side by side. Alan frowned and summoned a small tree spirit the size of a fist, with leaves like wings, buzzing and flying to detect Yubin. The tree spirit touched his hand, green light flashed, and Alan's eyes lit up, pure, no darkness. Be kind and send 50 tree spirits to help. But remember, balance comes first. Lina breathed a sigh of relief and patted Yubin on the shoulder. You've convinced me. This old man never nods easily. The two looked at each other, and their trust quietly deepened like a vine. Yubin thought to himself, her support makes me feel that I am not alone. At the same time, Junshi broke into the neutral tribe in the north alone, walking as fast as a wolf, with blue-scaled frogs standing guard in front of him. The tribal camp is lively, the elves are grilling meat around the fire, the aroma is fragrant, and the laughter is loud. Leader Kyle was as strong as a bear and asked suspiciously, Junshi, you are patrolling? Alliance? We are neutral, why are we wading into muddy water? Junshi laughed, drew out his machete, and lifted a boulder with one hand, his muscles bulging like mountains. Muddy water? This is a home war. The evil spirits have swallowed up the village, and you will be next. Watch out. He jumped on the stone platform, simulating a battle. The light of the sword flashed like electricity, and the frog grid assisted, and the air buzzed. The tribe elves widened their eyes, and Kyle nodded, your courage is commendable. Okay, the centurion will join us. But if we lose, we will withdraw. Junshi wiped his sweat and grinned, deal. Brothers, who is afraid of whom? When we returned to the village, it was already dusk. News of the allies came and the whole village was excited. Wei Qi strengthened the defense line in the square, waving his wooden staff. Green light weaved a 3-layer barrier like a net, vines sprouted from the ground, and strengthened wooden piles like iron walls. The defense line is stable. Patrol teams are taking shifts, and medical vine juice is fully prepared. The team gathered, and the interaction was as cordial as a family. Junshi patted Yubin on the back. Boy, did your lobbying go well? I caught rocks here and they were so scared that they called me daddy. Lina handed over the wild fruit, sweet juice overflowing. We also got the tree spirit. Come, eat something to replenish your energy. Xingjie summoned them to the wooden house and spread out the book. Now, synthesize the artifact. Yubin, hold the fragments and expand the system panel. Yubin took a deep breath. The blue light of the panel intertwined with the green light of the jade pendant, and his spiritual power poured in like a river. The debris pulsed, heat flowed through the body, and the air twisted and buzzed. The booklet guide flashes, the integration of light and shadow is activated. The fusion success rate is 98%. The ultimate scroll takes shape, with silver-green edges, runes rotating like stars, and light and shadow intertwined in the tentacles, like holding the sun and moon. It's done! The blade of light and shadow can purify the will of evil spirits. Xingjie nodded, good boy, with a strong will. The energy of allies will amplify it. The team sat around and chatted about their worries before the war. Lina approached Yubin and whispered, are you afraid? This time, the climax is about to happen. He held her hand and conveyed his warmth, I'm not afraid. With you, the trust is stronger than the scroll. Junshi laughed, nasty. But yes, brotherhood, chopping evil spirits is like chopping vegetables. Wei Qi smiled, mutual trust, balance will last forever. As night falls, the climax breaks out. The black mist surged in like a tide and invaded on a large scale 1,000 monsters, led by tree monsters, and a sea of blackthorn wolves. They hit the barrier with a thunderous roar, the green light shattered, black air seeped in, and the vegetation withered and hissed. Allies gather, the reclusive tree spirits buzz and dance like green clouds covering the sun, the neutral centurions rain down arrows like stars, the village patrol shield walls are like iron. Junshi yelled, "Go! Block the gap!" Li Na summoned a vine net, and the green light whipped the monster, making everyone wail. Yubin jumped onto the stone platform, held the ultimate scroll high, and silently recited light and shadow unity, and the energy of the allies poured in resonance, like hundreds of rivers flowing into the sea. The panel flashes crazily, group amplification magic is activated. Covers the entire village, allies attributes plus 30%, lasts for 1 hour. Spirit sharing, consumption halved. Silver-green light burst out, like the sun rising, and the light and shadow intertwined into a network, covering the battlefield. The power of the tree spirits increased dramatically, and the vines were like giant pythons crushing the tree demons. The neutral team's arrows were as fast as lightning, shooting through the fur of the wolves. The village shield wall was indestructible, reflecting the black energy. The monster collapsed, the giant leader rushed towards it, its branches and arms were like mountains pressing down. Yubin injected his will, the light blade flashed, tearing the core, black blood spattered, and the fishy smell filled his nostrils. Comprehensive breakthrough in attributes, strength plus 15, agility plus 12, intelligence plus 20, spirit plus 25. Level increased to 8. Unlock hero mode and cast unlimited bursts of spells. His blood burned like fire, and he laughed, "With this power, we will definitely win." The invasion was repulsed, the black mist receded, and the village roared with joy. But there is a sudden turning point, and the will of evil spirits pierces Yubin's mind like a needle. Phantoms emerge, the darkness of modern rental houses, the exhaustion of overtime work, and loneliness like a shadow. Li Na falls in a pool of blood, Junshi loses his arm, and the village turns to black soil. Whispering like a demonic voice, "Useless time traveler, you have ruined everything. Give up, the system is a dream." Fear submerged like a tide, he knelt down with cold sweat on his forehead, and the panel warned, "Psychological attack, test of will. Resistance minus 40%. Failure results in a crash." The inner monologue is churning, "This is fake." But the pain was real and left him breathless. Li Na rushed forward, held his hand tightly, her green eyes like lights. "Yubin. This is an illusion, a trick of evil spirits. Remember our trust." Junshi patted his shoulder, "Boy, get up. How can the black energy of your blood be extinguished?" Xingjia whispered, "Light and shadow merge into one, reflect it." The energy of allies poured in like a warm current. Yubin gritted his teeth, and the growth trajectory flashed in his mind, from confusion to protection, from dependence to control. He yelled, "Get away!" His will exploded like light, the phantom shattered, and the black air shrieked and receded. Panel response, passed the test of will. Spirit plus 30, unlock psychic shield. Growth and deepening, no longer fear the past and embrace a new destiny. He stood up, his eyes as red as fire, and his blood reached its peak. "Evil spirit, you lose. This green sea will never fall as long as we are here." In the black mist in the distance, the whispers of the fallen elves were faintly heard, indicating that the final battle was approaching. The team is reunited, trust is as strong as a rock, the lights of the village reflect their backs, and the storm is close, but they are fearless. The village lights swayed in the night wind like battle flags, reflecting the firm silhouettes of the people. When Yubin stood up, the afterglow of the phantom was still buzzing in his mind, but he was no longer afraid. The whisper dissipated like broken glass, and the black mist rolled more violently in the distance, like a giant beast panting, signaling the call of the lair. The team sat around the fire, and the air was filled with the smell of burnt black gas and the aftertaste of roasted fruits. Li Na's hand was still holding his, and the firelight reflected in her green eyes, as warm as a spring. Yubin, the illusion is broken, but the evil spirits are summoning an army. We can't wait, we have to go straight to the lair, she said, her voice clear but with unquestionable tenacity. Juanshi wiped his scimitar, and the blue-scaled tree frog on his shoulder hummed, as if in agreement. Yes. I can't wait. Unite the army and chop down that fallen devil. Saint Jia nodded, and the staff under his gray robe glowed slightly. The final battle is imminent. Boy, your ultimate scroll is the key, but remember, forbidden magic has a price. I will assist, but don't overload the system. Wei Qi walked out of the village chief's wooden house, his gray beard and hair trembling in the wind, and handed over he held a teleportation crystal, his tentacles as cold as jade. I will stay behind and provide support remotely. Trust each other, the lifeblood of this green sea is in your hands. Yubin took a deep breath, his blood was ignited like a torch. He looked at his partners, and an unprecedented sense of responsibility surged in his heart. From the confusion of time travel to now leading everyone, along the way, he is no longer a lone ranger, but the guardian of his homeland. Let's go, brothers. March into the lair and let the evil spirits taste our power. As dawn broke, the coalition troops pour out of the village like a green tide. The tree spirit of the reclusive elves buzzes and dances, clearing the way ahead like a green cloud. The centurions of the neutral tribe carry bows and arrows on their backs. With clanging footsteps, the village patrolling elves follow behind the shield wall, and the bottles of medical vine juice jingle. The air was moist with a mixed smell of earth and wild flowers, and the path meandered deep into the forest. The shadows of the trees towered like guards, and the branches and leaves rustled, seeming to encourage them. Yubin walked at the head of the team, holding the ultimate scroll tightly in his hand. The silver-green runes pulsed like a heartbeat. The system panel flashed at the edge of the field of vision, joint army mode activated. Number of allies, 200 plus. Morale plus 50%, combat bonus, area magic plus 30%. Lina walked side by side, her staff tapped the ground, and the green light swept through the soil, causing the withered grass to regenerate buds. Ecological stability is the key. The black energy will corrode the veins. I will maintain the balance and you concentrate on attacking. Juanshi explored the path in front, his scimitar flashing coldly. Boy, the smell of monsters is strong. The nest is close in front of you. The depths of the forest were like falling into a black hole, and the air was as sticky as glue, mixed with the pungent smell of decay. The entrance to the lair loomed, a dark barrier open like a giant mouth. Black mist rolled into a whirlpool, and a group of monsters with red eyes could be faintly revealed, and their roars were like rolling thunder. The giant tree demon guarded the door, 5 meters high, and its branches and arms hit the ground like a hammer, making the ground tremble. The blackthorn wolves lay low, and their claws scraped sparks. The combined army stopped, bows and arrows were cocked, and the tree spirits buzzed to gain momentum. Yubin's heart tightened, and his blood surged. He jumped up on the boulder, held the scroll high, and shouted, "Listen! This barrier is the incisor of the evil spirit, I will tear it open. Juanshi, lead the charge forward. Lina, stabilize the environment at the rear. Xinjia, the forbidden magic is on hand at any time. Wei Qi, reinforcements are ready." Everyone agreed, and the sound was like a wave, making his back feel hot. Light and shadow unite. Yubin muttered silently, and the ultimate scroll erupted with silver-green light, like the sun striking the night. Energy gathered like a river, the green light of the allies' tree spirits and the wool light of the neutral team were injected, and the panel jumped wildly. Ultimate scroll LV2 activated. Tearing the barrier apart consumes 60 stamina. The success rate is 99%. He raised his hands high, his will was poured into it like a rock, and the light and shadow intertwined into a giant blade, whizzing towards the barrier. With a bang, the black mist screamed like glass shattering, the barrier tore open a 10-meter-wide crack, dark energy spread like smoke, monsters swarmed around, and their red eyes flashed in panic. Charge! Juanshi yelled, leading the vanguard like a pack of wolves to rush in, slashing out with lightning with his scimitar. The branch and arm of the first tree demon broke, black blood spattered, and the stench hit his nostrils. Come on, monsters! I'm hungry for my sword. The blue-scaled tree frog fired a series of electric nets, paralyzing a group of wolves. The combined army followed, rain of arrows rained down like stars, the clanking of swords and shields was endless, and the battlefield was instantly filled with blood. Lina sat cross-legged by the crack, her staff thrust into the soil, and the green light spread like waves, natural veins, stable. She closed her eyes to sense, sweating on her forehead, green light poured into the earth, and the vines that the black energy tried to corrode instantly regenerated, and the leaves stretched like shields, blocking the monster's flanking attack. The ecology is as stable as a beating heart. Grass and trees grow under the feet of the combined army. Vine nets automatically trip up enemies. Monsters struggle and howl. Rotten blood stains the ground red. Hold on. If the balance is not broken, we are invincible. Lina shouted, her voice was clear, sweat dripped down her green hair, but her green eyes were as firm as a rock, which greatly boosted the morale of the troops behind them. The battle is in full swing, and the monster army pours out of the depths of the lair and attacks like a tide. Junshi took the lead and jumped into the pile of monsters. His machete spun like a windmill and chopped off the core of the tree demon with one blow, causing sawdust to fly. When the wolves came at him, he sidestepped to dodge. The arc of frogs exploded, and the smell of burnt meat hit his nostrils. Boy, you opened the door very well. These guys are so fun to chop. He laughed, his blood-stained face like a god of war, leading the vanguard to tear open the defense line, and the combined army followed up. The tree spirit vine whipped, the arrows penetrated the fur, the roar and the collision were mixed together, and the blood boiled the air. Saint Jia whispered from behind, his gray robes billowing like a flag in the wind, and his staff held high, "Open the forbidden door." He cast forbidden magic, the air twisted and buzzed, and a purple-black halo spread, locking the monsters like invisible shackles. The tree demon's movements were stiff, the eyes of the wolves were dim, and the combined army took the opportunity to harvest, with endless killing sounds. But Shinjia's face was pale, and blood was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. The price was like burning his body. Boy, hold on, this magic will take away my lifespan, but it's worth it. Yubin nodded, feeling a pain in his heart. The sacrifice of his partner was like a spur of blood. Suddenly, a green light flashed in the direction of the village, Wei Chi's teleportation crystal was activated, and reinforcements arrived like green shadows. The village elf medical team brought vine juice bottles, patrolling shield soldiers to fill in, and instantly stabilized the battle line. The village chief sent a message, "The three veins are united and will never be destroyed," the reinforcements shouted, the shield wall was like iron, medical juice was poured on the wounded soldiers, the battlefield turned around, and the monster retreated half a step. Yubin rushed into the core of the lair, and the system panel flashed red, overload warning, 85% mental consumption, continued fighting risks collapse. The heat wave hits his face like a tide, the black air wraps around like a living snake, and the evil spirit's true form appears, a tall and thin fallen elf, whose green eyes turn red, wearing a black robe, with black thorns on his body like a crown, and a will like a needle piercing his brain. "Traveler, are you going to die by destroying my outpost?" It whispered, its voice was like scraping bones, and it controlled the black gas tentacles to rush towards it. Yubin gritted his teeth, fired the ultimate scroll in succession, cut off the tentacles with the light and shadow blade, and the black smoke evaporated, but the system buzzed with overload, his vision was blurred, and his spirit was like a kite with a broken string. Persistence, can't fail. His inner monologue was churning. In the past, I always relied on the system as a lifeline, friendship, responsibility, like a distant dream. Now, Lina's green eyes, Junshi's smile, Shinjia's sacrifice, and Wei Chi's trust are like iron chains that bind me tightly. This is not a game, this is home. I have to mature and be a hero, not for the panel, but for them. His blood burned like fire, he injected his will, and the panel broke through the limit, heroic mode extended. Overload transformation, power plus 50%, but at the cost of physical damage. The reveal comes. The fallen elf laughed, and his black robe split open, revealing the old guardian emblem, the same as the Lina family. In the past, I was the guardian of Elven's heart. But the balance was too weak, and darkness gave me strength. I will swallow everything and reshape the green sea into a black domain. It admitted that the black energy surged and monsters resurrected and rushed towards it. Yubin's eyes were red. Depravity? That's cowardice. You destroyed your home, but you call it strength? We protect with friendship, you will never understand. The light and shadow blade exploded like a tornado, hitting the core of the evil spirit. The silver-green light tore the black robe, and the red eyes shattered. But there was a sudden turn, and the evil spirits turned into black mist and escaped, running deeper into the abyss ruins. Whispers echoed, "This is just the beginning. I'll get the core heart." The combined troops cheered, but their faces were solemn. Junshi gasped and patted his shoulder. Boy, it was hit hard. But it ran away, and the next wave was even stronger. Lina helped Yubin up, with moist green eyes. You held on, our hero. Xinjie coughed up blood, but smiled. You're mature, boy. The decisive battle is coming, get ready. Yubin stood up straight. The pain from the system overload was like fire, but he felt like he was reborn in his heart. Responsibility is not a burden, but wings. With blood boiling, the team regroups and sets its sights on the abyss. Although the storm has escaped, it heralds a greater climax. They move forward fearlessly, and the protection of the green sea never stops. The aftertaste of black air still lingers on the edge of the abyss ruins, like a thin layer of gray mist wrapped around the broken stone walls. The air is filled with the mixed smell of scorched earth and rotten blood, making people breathless. Yubin gasped. The self-healing green light on his shoulders gradually dimmed. The ultimate scroll was slightly hot in the palm of his hand, and the silver-green runes beat like a pulse. The whisper of the evil spirit has gone far away, but the red afterimage still echoes in my mind, like a thorn stuck in my heart. He looked around the team. Junshi wiped his scimitar, his face stained with blood but grinning brightly. Lina's green hair was stuck to her forehead, and her staff trembled gently to inject the last bit of natural power to stabilize the withered vines around her. Xinjie was panting against his staff, his gray robe stained with blood, and his pale face showed exhaustion. In the distance, Weiqi's green light extended like a bridge, and the medical team of reinforcements was rushing in, and the vine juice bottles jingled incessantly. The damn thing ran away, but it was hit hard. Junshi patted Yuebin's shoulder, hard, and the blue-scaled tree frog jumped from his shoulder to the ground, buzzing and licking the wound. Boy, your light and shadow blade is so cool. Half of the monsters have collapsed, and we won this round. Lina walked closer, locked Yubin with her green eyes, and gently pressed his arm. A hint of coolness rushed in, relieving the burning pain of overload. But the evil spirit is not dead. It goes straight to the heart of the core. There are traps deep in the lair. We have to optimize our strategies and not break through forcefully. Her touch was as gentle as the spring breeze, which made Yubin's heart feel warm, and there was a faint softness in his blood. The team retreated to the temporary camp outside the ruins, under a secluded green forest. The combined armies dispersed their vigilance, the tree spirits buzzed and patrolled, the archers of the neutral tribes discussed tactics in low voices, and the fire crackled, lighting up every tired but determined face. Yubin sat down cross-legged, the system panel automatically unfolded, and blue light flashed like a star map in his field of vision. Combat analysis completed. Heavy damage to evil spirits, progress plus 15%. System upgrade trigger, ultimate mode unlocked. Conditions, tenacity of will plus ally bond. Effect, all attributes plus 50%, permission to create your own scroll, overload converted into energy burst. Warning, 30% risk of mental breakdown after use. He took a deep breath and felt a warm current rising from his dantian, like fire igniting the meridians throughout his body. His intelligence surges like a fountain, and the tactics in his mind fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. Everyone, listen, the evil spirit's weakness is its will. We cannot disperse the attack and must concentrate our firepower. Junshi, you lead the patrol to clear out the remaining enemies and cut off their supplies. Lina, maintain the ecological chain and prevent the black energy from counterattacking. Saint Master, Teach the final secret, village chief, strengthen the global barrier and seal the exit of the lair. I use a new mode to create a scroll to purify the surrounding area and open a way for the army. Junshi nodded, jumped up, and swung his scimitar, the sword's light shimmering in the morning mist. Take it with me. Those defeated soldiers who dare to show their heads will be chopped into firewood. He took a dozen neutral archers and tree spirits and sneaked into the edge of the forest to patrol, his footsteps as silent as wolves. Not long after, short roars and the sound of arrows piercing the wind were heard in the distance, and the wail of the blackthorn wolf echoed intermittently. A tree demon that tried to get around was cut off by Junshi's knife and fell to the ground, with black blood splattering and staining the red moss. 5 heads cleared. Boy, the outer perimeter of the lair is secure. His shout was like a drumbeat, boosting morale and adding a touch of enthusiasm to the whispers of the combined army. Xingjie approached Yubin, his eyes under the gray robe were as deep as ancient wells. He took out a crystal-clear shadow crystal from his arms, its surface flowing like liquid silver. The last secret, shadow fusion light generation. The will of evil spirits is like shadow, and your light and shadow blade can purify it. But you need to melt the shadow for your own use. Imagine that the black energy is not the enemy, but fuel. Inject this crystal, and the system will record it. Yubin held the crystal tightly, and his mental power penetrated like a thread, and the panel buzzed, secret knowledge acquisition, shadow fusion mode. The ultimate scroll is upgraded, the purification range is plus 100%, and the backlash is converted into self-healing. Warmth flowed through him, he closed his eyes to test, and fragments of black fog flashed in his mind. Fear was like a tide, but it turned into strength. When his eyes opened, his pupils flashed with silver light. Understood, mentor. This is not destruction, but rebirth. Xingjie nodded, raising the corners of his mouth slightly with rare tenderness. Boy, you have grown up. From relying on the panel to controlling the shadow, this is the transformation of a hero. In the direction of the village, Weiqi's green light spread like a giant net, connecting the camps through the teleportation crystal. He sat cross-legged in the village chief's wooden house, with his wooden staff planted on the ground, his old figure towering in the green light. Global barrier, activate. His voice echoed like the wind, the veins of the forest trembled, the energy of the 3 veins converged like a river, vines sprang out from the ground, weaving into an invisible barrier, blocking the surroundings of the nest for several miles. The black air tried to seep out, but was bounced back by the green net, evaporated, and the air became fresher. The reinforcement medical team brought news, the village chief is holding on. The barrier is like an iron barrel, the monster can't get out, we go in and destroy it. Weiqi coughed, but smiled calmly, trust each other, the green sea will last forever. Go, Yubin. Lina took Yubin and slipped to the clear spring beside the camp. The spring water was as calm as a mirror, reflecting their reflections. Water drops dripped from the tips of the leaves, making a tinkling sound, and the patrol shouts of death could be heard faintly in the distance. She stopped, looked directly at him with green eyes, and said in a soft but urgent voice, Yubin, before the decisive battle. I have something to say. From the day you crossed over and the forest chose you, I was wary at first, like a guarding wild beast. But now, your passion and persistence have made me see the other side of balance, not only nature, but also the heart. She leaned closer, her hair brushing his face, and the fragrance of wild flowers filled her nostrils. Yubin's heart beat like a drum, and shadows flashed through his heart, modern loneliness, confusion of time travel, and hallucinatory fear, entangled like black mist. But her eyes were like light, scattering everything. He took a deep breath and held her hand tightly. Lina, me too. The system gave me power, but you gave me a home. The previous world was like a cage, busy but empty. Here, with you and a team, I am truly alive. I love you. Not just a comrade, but a woman who wants to protect you forever. When the words came out, his face was as hot as fire, but his blood made him have no regrets. Lina's eyes were moist and her smile was as bright as a flower. Fool, I love you too. Let's guard this green sea together. They embraced, their lips touched lightly, sweet as spring water, their emotions were as deep-rooted as vines, and their bond deepened. The team relived this moment. Junshi came back from patrol and laughed loudly when he saw it. "Hey, are you too tired? The remaining enemies are clear and morale is full." Xinjie smiled. Weiqi's green light pulsed like a drum. Everyone sat around the fire, sharing fruits and stories. Junshi told interesting stories about the patrol. "A wolf tried to bite me, but the frog shocked me so much that I danced." Li Na talked about family legends. Xinjie filled in the secret details, and Weiqi provided encouragement remotely. The interaction is like a family, and the laughter is full of enthusiasm. Yubin feels that he has grown like a tree. From a loner to a leader, this bond is the greatest weapon. But the shadow in my heart remains. In the deep night, Yubin walked alone to the edge of the forest. Where the black mist remained, phantoms reappeared in his mind, evil spirits whispered, the village was burned, and Li Na fell to the ground. He knelt down and hit the soil with his fist. The pain was like needles. "Get away. This is my shadow, I will face it." The system's ultimate mode was activated, and he created his own scroll, a fusion of shadow fusion secrets and emotional bonds. The parchment emerged, with silver and green edges intertwined, and runes like heartbeats. Purifying light. Silently chanting into his will, the black energy rushed towards him like a living snake, but he did not retreat. His inner monologue was like fire. Fear is the past, and now is the protection. The scroll exploded, light and shadow poured out like a tide, purifying the surrounding area for miles. The black mist screamed and evaporated, withered grass and trees regenerated buds, and the air was as fresh as new life. The panel flashes, self-created scroll successfully. Shadow purification, will plus 20. The forest area has been restored by 30%. He stood up, his eyes were as bright as stars, and his overall growth was like the nirvana of a phoenix. The climax is ready to come. The combined forces gathered and surrounded the nest like an iron barrel. Tree spirits gathered, neutral archers unloaded their arrows, and village shield soldiers formed an array. The evil spirits sensed it, and roared back. The ultimate monster was summoned from the black mist, a giant dark tree spirit, 10 meters tall, with branches like mountains, eyes as red as the blood moon, and black thorns all over its body like 1,000 blades. The roar shook the sky, the ground cracked, black energy gushes out like a tide, and the monsters came to life. The combined army attacked, arrows rained like stars, and tree spirit vine nets tripped the enemy, but the ultimate monster's branches and arms swept in, smashing several shield walls, and screams spread everywhere. Yubin led the team to break through, the ultimate mode was fully activated, and all attributes skyrocketed. He jumped on the monster's back, fired the ultimate scroll, and the light and shadow blade tore through the black spines like a tornado. The energy burst made him descend like a god. "This is our pinnacle," roared with enthusiasm. Junshi cut off the leg with a last-ditch attack, Li Na stabilized the ecology with green light, Xingjiangrong sealed his will, and Weiqi's green net blocked the retreat. The monster struggled, and the branch arm fell down. He dodged, his will purified the core like light, black blood spattered, and the giant beast fell to the ground with a crash. The team broke through the defense line and went deep into the lair. The true body of the evil spirit was waiting in the heart of the core, whispering like a storm, "Come on, hero, your doom." Yubin clenched his fists, the peak of his growth was like fire burning in the sky, the story pushed to an endless climax, and the fate of the Green Sea was in their hands. The air deep in the lair is as heavy as lead, and the black mist rolls into a whirlpool, mixed with the pungent smell of decay, making people breathless. The core heart is suspended in mid-air. A fist-sized red crystal core pulses with purple light, beating like a devil's heart. The surrounding black energy is like tentacles squirming, and the red figure of the evil spirit is faintly revealed. It was clad in a torn black robe, its green eyes twisted into blood red, a mocking smile appeared at the corner of its mouth, and its whisper echoed like a bone-chilling wind, "Come on, hero, your doom. This Green Sea will become my black domain." The combined army gasped at the entrance, the tree spirits buzzed in warning, and the neutral archers unloaded their arrows, but Yubin waved his hand to stop them, his blood burning like fire. He took a deep breath, and held the ultimate scroll tightly, silver-green light jumping in the palm of his hand. Doomsday? That's yours. Brothers, come on. Protect everything in this battle. Junshi laughed, his scimitar gleaming coldly. Lina's green eyes were firm, and her staff was light. The saint's gray robe bulged, and his will was like light. Wei Qi's green light poured in from the distance like a bridge, and the team trusted each other like iron locks, and the decisive battle broke out. The evil spirits roared, the black energy turned into thousands of tentacles and rushed towards them. The remnants of the monster army revived, and the giant tree demon arched out from the ground, towering like a mountain. Its branches and arms fell down and the wind roared, and the ground cracked like a spider web. The combined army attacked, rain of arrows fell like stars, and tree spirit vine nets tripped the enemy, but their tentacles whipped like whips and shattered several shield walls. Wails spread everywhere, and black blood splattered and dyed the stone walls red. Junshi jumped forward, and the blue-scaled tree frog's electric net fired continuously, paralyzing the legs and feet of the tree demon that rushed towards him. He shouted, "Boy, clear the way! I'll kill this guardian beast!" The scimitar spun like lightning, and used the force to climb up the back of the giant beast. The blade pierced the eyes, and the bloody blood sprayed and stung his nostrils. The tree demon struggled to fight back, and the branches and arms were smashed like hammers. He rolled to the ground to dodge, and the frog arc exploded with the smell of burnt meat. He joined the archer to replenish the arrows, and the arrows penetrated the branches and sawdust flew into the air. "Ha, this guy is thick-skinned, but I am tougher." Junshi gritted his teeth, injected hot blood, and cut off the core branches and arms with one knife. The giant beast fell to the ground with a bang, shaking the nest, and half of the black energy collapsed. He gasped and stood up, with a bright smile on his blood-stained face. "Guardian beast, it's over. Team, keep charging." Lina sat cross-legged on the edge of the battle circle, her green hair flying in the wind, her staff thrust into the stone ground, and the green light spread like waves. "Natural veins, wake up." She closed her eyes to sense, sweating on her forehead, and her mental power was like a river flowing into the soil corroded by black air. Withered vines are reborn, and their leaves stretch like shields to block side attacks from tentacles. The ecological chain revives like a heartbeat, and buds emerge from the cracks in the ground, extracting black air nutrients and transforming them into green light. When the monster stepped on it, it was pierced by thorns, wailing endlessly, and the rotten blood turned into fertile soil. "Balance, restored." Lina shouted, her voice was clear, sweat slid down her face, but her green eyes shone like emeralds. Grass and trees grew under the feet of the combined army, and vine nets automatically woven into trenches. The monsters were like being stuck in a quagmire, moving slowly. Wei Qi's green light from afar merged in, and she felt the village chiefs were like a warm current. "Lina, hold on. The three veins merge into one, and I rebuild the barrier." Lina smiled, and the warmth of the bond surged in her heart. This is not only magic, but also the pulse of the team. The saint murmured from behind, his gray robe fluttering like a flag, and his staff held high with a purple-black halo spreading. "Forbidden seal, lock." He cast his secret, his will pierced the black air like a needle, and the remaining dark monster's eyes dimmed, and its tentacles stiffened and twitched. The evil spirit clone sprang out and tried to fight back, but he coughed up blood but refused to retreat. The shadow crystal was injected into the light and shadow blade, and the black energy was used for his own use. Several tentacles were evaporated, and the buzzing sound was deafening. "Boy, seal them!" Xinjie shouted. His face was as pale as paper, his lifespan was passing like an hourglass, but his eyes were full of approval. The united tree spirits were blessed by the halo, and the vine whipped harder. The monsters collapsed into piles, and black smoke curled up. Yubin nodded, feeling a pain in his heart. His partner's sacrifice was like a spur. "Thank you, mentor. This seal has stabilized our retreat." The battlefield was white-hot. Yubin rushed towards the core heart. The ultimate mode was fully activated, all attributes surged like a god descending. He jumped over the monster's stump, the ultimate scroll was held high, and the silver-green light exploded like the sun. Integrate everything. Silently injecting will, the system panel flashed crazily, ultimate mode LV3 activated. Fusion of nature, shadow fusion, team bond, and secret seal. Infinite power, destroying the core. Mental overload transformation, burst plus 100%. The energy is like hundreds of rivers converging into the sea, with Li Na's green light, Junqi's blood, Xingjia's shadow and light, and Wei Qi's barrier threads all pouring into the scroll. The air twisted and buzzed, and light and shadow intertwined into giant blades, tearing through the black mist like a tornado and striking at the evil spirits. The fallen elf screamed, its red eyes shattered, and its black robe burned. No! My black domain. It controlled the tentacles to fight back, wrapping around Yubin's arm. The rotten air burned his body like fire, and the pain was like a needle pricking his brain, but he did not retreat, and his inner monologue was like fire. This pain is the price of growth. From the confusion of time travel to the protection now, I am no longer an outsider, I am the son of this green sea. With blood boiling, he yelled, "Go to hell." The giant blade slashed down, and the core heart shattered. Purple light exploded like fireworks, black energy receded like tides, the monsters turned into ashes, and the sound of the nest collapsing was like thunder. The screams of evil spirits echoed, and the last trace of black mist rushed towards the abyss, but with a wave of St. G's staff, the sealing halo was locked, and the great green net tightened from a distance, like an iron chain crushing the remaining darkness. The team works together to defeat all threats, the green light returns to the depths of the nest, the soil regenerates tender grass, and the air is as fresh as the spring breeze. The combined army cheered loudly, the tree spirits buzzed in celebration, the neutral archers threw their bows and hugged, the village reinforcements rushed in, and the medical juice was sprinkled all over the wounded soldiers. Junqi patted Yubin on the back. "Boy, it's overturned. Your scroll is like a god descending to earth." Li Na threw herself into his arms, her green eyes moist. "We won, ecological balance, we are back." Xingjia leaned on his staff and panted, smiling, "The seal is completed, boy, you are a hero." Wei Qi's green light merged like a bridge, and he appeared as a phantom, with gray beard and hair but energetic. The barrier is rebuilt, the three veins are unified, forever. Green Sea, reborn. The forest awakens, ancient trees unfurl their leaves, flowers bloom like rainbows, birds chirp like bells, magical creatures emerge from hiding, bees and butterflies buzz and flutter, and the scent of wildflowers fills the air. The system panel lit up in Yuebin's field of vision. Main mission completed, protect ecological balance. Fight back the forces of darkness and restore the forest. Reward, attributes reach peak, strength 50, agility 45, intelligence 60, spirit 70. System evolution, eternal guardian mode, unlimited spell casting, monitoring world balance. Full experience, level 10. His whole body felt like a new life, his blood turned into calm determination, and his heart grew like the deep roots of an ancient tree. From the powerlessness of modern times to the passion of another world, this journey taught me that protection is not a talent, but a choice. Friendship, love, and responsibility make me an eternal guardian. The village square is brightly lit and celebrations erupt like a festival. The residents gathered around the fire to roast the fruits, and the aroma filled the air. Elf allies paid tribute, the reclusive leader Alan bowed. "Hero Yubin, the tree spirits will always remember your light." Neutral leader Kyle raised a glass. "Brothers with blood, Green Sea owes you my life." Junqi laughed loudly, hugging Yubin's shoulders. "Boy, from stupid young man to legend, this wine is for you." Li Na pulled him to the spring, the moonlight reflected the sparkling water, her green eyes were like stars. "Yubin, the future, shall we protect it together? Make a promise to never be separated." He held her hand tightly, and his heart surged with warmth. "Of course, Li Na. You are my oasis, and I am your shield. Traveling here is not an accident, it is fate, allowing me to meet you and meet home." They kissed, sweet as nectar, surrounded by the blood of friendship, and the team cheered like waves. Wei Qi raised his staff, and green light rose into the sky like fireworks. The Green Sea is reborn, and heroes live forever. Xingjia smiled and retreated into the shadow of the trees, while Junshi led the team to patrol the new border. Yubin looked at the starry sky, and the system whispered quietly, "The balance has been restored, and the adventure will continue." But tonight, he felt satisfied like a tide. He knew that this legend would be spread in the elven songs, and the blood and friendship would shine on the green sea forever.